going through a drought. You don't even have to do too much. You can turn me on with just a touch, baby. City's cold and empty. No one's around to judge me. I can see clearly when you're on my side.
Welcome, everybody, to an all-new episode of Marvel Cinematic Review. As you saw from the title, right? And that beautiful intro. Let's just take a second real quick to clap it up for Jayla. That beautiful intro right there. Worked all day on that beautiful intro. Shout out to Jayla. Today, yes, we will be breaking down the season finale of Miss Marvel and then going right into our final breakdown of Thor Love and Thunder. We'll have a somewhat full panel here to break down everything, but we will be starting with Miss Marvel first. So if you have not seen the finale of Miss Marvel, make sure you come back later on to watch it, but we will be breaking down Miss Marvel and spoiler thoughts on Thor Love and Thunder. Before we jump into any of that, let me introduce my panel, starting off with Tristan. What's up, Tristan?
Nothing much. I'm happy to be here.
All right, I'm glad you gave me the same respect I gave you about being right about certain things.
Oh yeah.
So we'll do a trade-off in this one long show.
Absolutely.
All right,
fine.
where we're just high-fiving each other.
Yeah.
You guys will soon find out what that was about. But next up, Mike, back-to-back shows, man. I'm loving the feel of this, man. Having you on back-to-back shows. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to be a part of both of these shows, and I just can't wait to talk about Miss Marvel. What an episode! What an ending!
Yep. A lot of people, when they heard that we were doing Miss Marvel and Thor Love and Thunder essentially on the same night, a lot of people said the same things. We are only here to hear everything Trayvon has to say. And you know what? To be honest with you, I can't disagree with that sentiment at all. As soon as I saw how this episode of Miss Marvel ended, I said the one person that I can guarantee you is smiling ear to someone else's ear is Trayvon. And then I thought to myself, the only person willing enough to hate on the very next topic is Trayvon. So I'm like, this will be the best of both worlds. But what's going on, Trayvon?
Yes, I'm happy to be here. This is going to be great. I can't wait to talk about this show, and then we'll talk about that other thing. Yeah.
And there will be no photos of ass on our screen, so hopefully you'll be able to.
Trust me, I'll be able to describe it.
I don't even need you to. It's okay.
Wait.
I don't even need you to.
There won't be? Why am I here then?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, look. Already Trayvon's like, I might leave for the second part. But
I'll just pull it up on our screen. You know.
Oh, last and definitely not least, the most legal form of a brother I have, Joel. What's up, Joel?
Aside from your actual brother, I mean,
like he's not watching. He's not watching. What does it matter? Like, what does it matter, Joel? Is this already a competition with you? Enough. What's going on, Joel?
What is going on? I have a lot to say. Ooh, it's gonna be fun.
I bet you guys do. So let's jump right into it. And look, to be fair, there is just no better person to start off with than Trayvon. I know he just can't wait to not only try to stick it to comic book fans, but also to just gush about the one scene he was adamant that if he didn't have, he was willing to burn the whole fucking society.
Success.
So go ahead, Trayvon, and give us your thoughts on this finale of Miss Marvel.
What a finale, man. What a finale. I just know, after I watched it, I was like, okay, I enjoyed this. I know the comic fans, the ones that are pure, like, we need her to be a human. We need her to have her real powers. All that stuff, right? I was okay. Stop the think pieces. So I was like, go ahead, tweet about it. Don't keep it to yourself. Don't do that. Don't just leave it. Just let it go. It's okay. It's okay. Let it go. I just this episode was so, I don't know. It's like perfect for her. Like she's still very much teenager, still very much coming of age. Still like the way they distracted damage control was so like fun, and it reminded me of like, I don't know, Home Alone, like or something like that. It was just really fun that way, and I really liked that it did that way. She didn't just go in, just fight and just punching. She was okay. We're gonna do this. We're gonna hit it with this. We're gonna do smoke. I was like, this is fun. This is really cute, and it fit the show, the theme from the beginning of the show to the end. I felt it was very consistent, for all the way through. Like it never felt like it was just out of place. Her powers. It didn't go how. Now, I do admit it didn't go how I thought it was gonna be. I thought Cameron would be kind of more menacing. I guess he wasn't really. He was just kind of backed into a corner. I felt like he was like, "What happened? Like, where's my mom?" And like he felt backed in the corner. He wasn't trying to necessarily kill anybody. He was just a little more aggressive than he should have been. And she was defending the people, because he probably would have killed somebody, but she stopped him. That was good.
Pretty sure.
Yeah. I really enjoyed that. The fight at the end, like, I loved everybody like supporting her, and everybody was like, just building her up. I was like, yeah, come on, I loved it. I just love it. Just felt good. Episode it just felt good. And then when she, when her mom, like, she was trying to tell the story, her mom basically already told everybody. I was okay. They just go ahead and address that right off the bat. Like, go ahead, I told everybody. The family knows. I was like, okay, good. We ain't gotta like waste time doing that. I do like that they got right to that. Got right to the costume. It wasn't no be around the bush. None of that. Love that. And then the end, the end of the fight, when she did it in Big End, I don't know, like when she said it just, I don't know, something washed over me. I was like, yes, oh my god, I was like, it's so cool. I said, you know what? Like I was wondering, I was like, what is she gonna get her regular stretchy powers? I was like, no, I like this better. I like these powers. I like it. I'm glad she's keeping it. Let's stick with it. I guess she'll keep it. We'll see. But I do like where they're going. And then of course, the epilogue or whatever, but he was like, you're mutant. I was like, okay. It just, for me, what it did for me, I've been saying this for a long time. I've been saying that she's a mutant, Carol's a mutant, and Monica's mutant. That's how I feel. Until I get proven wrong, that's where I'm at. So this is where I feel. That's what it did for me. I feel like those three are mutants. And that explains a lot to me. That explains how they haven't died from Infinity Stone energy and walking through Wanda's hex. That's what I feel like. Also, the post-credit scene. Oh god, when she got up and she didn't, but when it looked like to me, she didn't change into her.
No,
she switched spots.
Yeah.
I was like, huh. I was like, this is cool. I said, look at the outfit. My girl. Yes. She's going Disney Plus. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Y'all look. Y'all didn't think it would happen. There she is. There's my girl. Full glory.
To be fair, I just said last week, don't get your hopes up. It seems more feasible that Monica would show up than her. I didn't think it was impossible, like she wouldn't do Disney Plus. I just saw it more so as like, if someone's going to show up, it narratively, to me, just made more sense because I'm like, well, Monica, we just saw. We still have no fucking idea what Carol is doing. I didn't assume they would end this in the fucking question mark. Like, I thought it'd be more so like just a continuation of the last person that's going to be in the very next thing with her. But again, we knew Doctor Strange was going to be in WandaVision till it was cut. So none of these are things that are impossible. It's just, again, when it comes to Marvel, well, wait, before I even go into that, did you want to add anything else, Trayvon?
No, I'm just smiling a lot. I can't wait. It'll change when we get to the other thing. But yeah, so yeah, that's about it. You know, that's it. I'm happy. I got what I wanted. Yay.
You did. No, I mean, look, I know I was asked about this earlier. This show just taught me something that I now fully understand, and it's just I can't be emotionally invested anymore in anything MCU. It just every time I do, I'm just like, you just do shit that's just like, why? Like I don't understand. So from now on, I'm just not questioning it, not hating it. I'm not invested enough anymore to care. So it's like when he said it's a mutation and they played the X-Men animated theme, who cares? Like I don't care anymore. She gets her stretchy powers. I don't care anymore. Like to me, they've stripped that from me. I
They said the things.
I can't.
Said the
I just
things.
can't care anymore. Because now that makes it very murky to where now I'm just like, now I'm concerned. Well, not concerned anymore, but the thought did reign through my head as I'm watching it at 4:00 this morning. Is like, well, if you're just gonna make it very neat that those two are mutants, how the fuck are you gonna explain the rest of the world that are mutants? So you're just gonna say they were the same, like it just happened, and now everyone's mutants. So I'm very much of just like, you know what? I don't care.
That was always on the table, though.
Say it again.
That was always on the table, regardless of what happened.
Oh no,
Here.
but we were always saying that was the stupidest way to do it.
No. The stupidest idea was them coming out of a portal from another dimension and coming over. That was the stupidest idea. Them becoming mutants being there the whole time was never an issue for me.
Oh no. I'm talking about the events of Infinity War and Endgame
The snap
making
energy.
mutants.
The snap energy activating them. That's what I feel like.
I don't understand that logic either. But
Snap energy. Why not?
No, it doesn't make any sense.
It activates them. Why not?
It activates them. Mutants should have been there from the very beginning. That's the point.
What we're saying is, Trayvon, if you're telling me that we're getting X-Men that have nothing to do with Charles Xavier and Magneto, sure. But if those two characters are going to be here, I do not want to hear that in 2020, whatever the year was when Infinity War happened, the events of that is how they became mutants.
There's too many mutants. There's not enough time for them to have enough history.
Right.
You give them no history.
Right.
You do that.
And then if you ever do want to use Apocalypse going forward, what would the narrative for that character even be?
A lot of characters you would have to like completely.
But
it
again,
wouldn't make any sense.
Again, like I said, I'm just mentally in a place where I can't anymore.
That should be the last thing that bothered you
of this episode.
Yeah.
No, that was definitely one of those.
Well, no. The explanation should be the last thing. That could bother you. But like the explanation of her being mutant, like mutants in general, that's not for you. Don't kill yourself because they haven't explained it yet. You know what I mean?
That's why I'm saying. To me, I'm leaving it at. I'm not invested anymore because now it just seems like. And again, I was hoping that if he was going to say something like that, it would be somewhat ambiguous to where I can go, well, maybe he just means her body is further mutated, right? It's not specifically she's a mutant. It's just further growth of what her body is going through.
Well, that's what mutation is, really.
Well, once you play the theme, you can kind of just connect.
I get that, but I'm saying in general, even Inhumans in general are technically mutants.
Right. So like I said, for me, I watched this episode. I agree with Trayvon. It was great. It definitely set up something to where down the line, Bruno meeting Peter Parker is going to be the most fun for two reasons. A, because the actor was almost Peter Parker, and B, because Bruno and Peter would just be the best of fucking friends. But yeah, I loved it. I also loved, as I pass it to you, Tristan, I loved how her dad essentially told her superhero name that she's going to use going forward is the actual name that she has, and that's where it kind of stems from. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, that was really cool. I really appreciated that. I thought that was cool. There were a few things in this episode that kind of were like, well, you definitely did that because you needed to make the time of this episode. But I get it. But overall, all the geek shit, like I said, just mentally, I'm drained. So for me, whatever. But Tristan, how did you like this finale?
Overall, I really enjoyed it. There was some stuff in here. I guess there was one main thing. It's kind of a minor thing that bothered me, but overall, I really liked the episode. I like what Trayvon said. Like that whole thing in the school had a Home Alone feel. I hadn't really thought about that, but when you said that, I was like, yes, that's exactly what it was like. Although I felt like somebody should have gotten hurt, like seriously hurt. I feel like realistically they would.
They were trying.
Yeah, oh yeah, they were. They were.
Yeah, they roughed them up pretty good.
I'm still wondering where Cameron's power. Like he doesn't have a bangle, but he has that. I guess his mom gave him that energy. I don't know. Like I felt like. So one of the things that kind of annoyed me was like when she died at the end of the previous episode. I felt like there was kind of a hint that she was doing something sinister. Or maybe that's just how I read it. And then this episode, it was like, no, she just loved you and gave you her energy. And it's like, oh, okay, we'll hand wave that away. And then the girl that was Kamala's bully, who suddenly she's like, oh yeah, I've known the whole time that Kamala was.
Well, hold on.
She wasn't technically a bully.
She was never a bully. Remember, Kamala
kind of stuck up.
Well,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
it was just more
a
so.
former
It was just
friend.
more so that her and Kamala used to hang out, but now she's just too cool for Kamala.
Yes.
So it's more so just ignoring her rather than purely picking on. Like she wasn't her version of Flash that Peter had. She wasn't that. She was just more so. I don't even know you exist. Rather than I'm gonna just
Okay.
vocally make you feel like shit every day.
Okay, so she wasn't a bully, but her coming back and being like, "Oh, yeah, I knew it was you all along, and I didn't feel like you should be outed as a superheroine." I was like, I really didn't need that moment for her to come back. It had happened so long ago, and we hadn't seen her in so long that I was like, we really didn't need that moment. But I guess,
Well, more so the reason why they did that scene and they did that was in the comics, her character and Nakia date. So it was more so to kind of seep in the seeds of that for the next time we see this whole group.
okay, so I was gonna say that because I did like her line where she says, because I feel like Kamala shouldn't have to reveal herself to the world, come out to the world until she has to. And then her and Nakia shared that look, and I was like, am I reading too much into that?
No,
that
in the comics
okay?
they dated.
Okay, so I do like that. So okay, if they had to set that up, okay, I forgive them.
Mhm.
I don't like the fact that nobody in her family was like, Kamala, you can't just be out here fighting people and using your powers. Everybody was just so accepting of it. I'm like,
Well,
really?
no.
Nobody is?
I'm out. Her dad was, but her mom quickly remember. So where it was kind of cute about it was we flipped it from episode 1 to episode 6. Remember episode 1, her dad goes, Kamala, we do trust you, right, hun? And she's like, no, absolutely not. So you flip to episode 6, and his dad goes, I want to know that you're not just out here putting yourself in danger. And Kamala's like, you trust me, right? And her mother just jumps in and is like, of course we trust you.
Right?
Of course we trust you.
Yeah.
But her dad was saying, I don't really like the idea of you just jumping in front of bullets. And her mom essentially was just like, she's fine. She's a superhero. Let it go. She's fine. So her dad was the one that was looking to push back. But again, as you see, he answers to mom. So if mom is saying she's fine, dad is like.
He also saw her brother there too. Remember?
She did.
Yeah, she did. Yes. She probably thought about it. She's probably like, yeah, do me a favor. Go fucking watch her.
Once she learned find my iPhone or whatever, she's like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna always find you.
Yeah, she's like, I will know where you are at forever. Which is funny, Joel, because picture when she does that when Danvers comes down the stairs and she's just on the app looking for her, but she's on a whole nother planet, and it's like, it's not going far enough. Like, why is it showing she doesn't exist? So,
She's not on this world.
Yeah, she's not even on this world, right? But no, I'm sorry, Tristan. I just wanted to add that the dad was very much trying to push back, but the mom was like, fuck all that. It's fine.
He is
Okay.
a saucy though.
Right.
Okay, yeah. So again, I mean, yeah, that's great. I just my opinion. I still felt like there should be
I get it.
a variety of reactions to
Not
that.
enough pushback.
Yeah. What else was I gonna say? Cameron, I thought he was gonna. He kind of goes crazy and starts beating up the damage control people. I thought he was gonna be more of a villain, but I guess they kind of see. I feel like that was that's something that could have been explored. Maybe if there was 1 or 2 more episodes, but they were just kind of like, oh, we're gonna tease it, then we're gonna kind of hand wave it away. He's just grieving. I don't know. I just felt like I don't like the fact they kind of teased that idea, but didn't really go through with it. But again, it's only 6 episodes, so I guess it could still.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
He's
they
grieving
also,
with no control.
Well, they also, to me, the only reason why, because I'm with you, Tristan, I was feeling that way a lot throughout this episode, but the reason why I accepted their villain is because it felt like, and I could be extremely wrong, it felt like they were shining a light on society as a villain, right? So that was the final villain, society. How society looks at people of color. And how if you stick together, those are the results you can get that can create change. So it seemed as though they were shining a light on society, and I could be looking too deep into it.
No.
But it kind of felt like that's what they were attacking. So I'm like, well, if that was maybe set up a lot better, of how, like, obviously, and I don't mean racist to necessarily Pakistanis, but superheroes or people with powers, how racist she seemed to people with powers. And then it just played more into a more racial scenario. I could have accepted it better, but Kamran, I'm going to leave on ice till I see how that falls out. Because it seems like everything he did was out of fear and anger of not knowing what happened to his mom and then knowing what happened to his mom. So now the question becomes, does he develop to become a villain once he learns how to properly use his power? Does he seek revenge? So I'm like, I'll leave it on ice to see where they go with that. But if you're asking me how I felt about how they utilized it now in the present, they could have done a whole lot of things better with their villains. But it did seem more like his mom kind of projected the ability of the portal into him.
Absorbed the energy and redirected it.
Exactly. Like he's an unstable portal, right? So that's kind of, again, we're gonna have to see how that plays out. So if it plays out well, then it's like, okay, we can kind of eat this better. But not knowing when's the next time we'll see him, because again, we gotta wait to hear if we're even getting a season 2, or if this shit will be a movie, you know. So once we hear about that, I can now open my mind to, okay, they can play out Nakia and the friend dating. They can play out Kamran. We can see what happened to Bruno. But for the short term, they could have done a lot of things better, Tristan. I am with you there.
So going back to what I was saying, I didn't like how during the final battle, like the community came out to help support her. I'm trying to think, is there anything else in the episode that I don't know? I kind of walked away. The first time I walked away from this episode, finished this episode, I was kind of conflicted. I was like, I felt like that was stuff that they could have gone explored more. I think I just wished it was more than 6 episodes. But I mean,
answer everything. They left us a lot of things unanswered.
Yeah, and that's kind of the point, like to leave us wanting more, so that they can do another season. So makes sense. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed the episode. I really didn't expect Brie Larson to show up at the very end. I felt like, and I said this way back before Miss Marvel ever started, I was more interested in seeing Monica Rambeau interact with Kamala, which obviously we'll get to see, just because they have very differing opinions on Carol. So yeah, I really would have thought that would have been more interesting. I thought that would have made more sense for Monica to show up, but obviously we'll see them interact in the Marvels. But yeah, overall it was a great episode.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all, but I will say for Trayvon is that as much as I did want to see the contrast of when Monica and Kamala first meet in this episode, I am way more interested now in seeing Kamala's side of things, right? Like the Brie Larson side, we believe very shortly will she realize, like, oh shit, something happened, let me go back to where I was the moment I left. I'm more interested on what the fuck Kamala thinks when she wakes up and she's just like, what the fuck is all this shit? Like, where am I? Because that's the funny thing. We have no idea where she went, right? Like, we can't even say, like, oh, she might be in, like, a Kree space station. I don't fucking know. We have no idea what Danvers was.
Angle's still missing.
And Danvers did look dressed for battle. So I'm like, that suit looked like, you know how, like, some superheroes have a regular suit and then like a battle version of that suit. That looks like a battle version of the suit we've seen so many times.
It looks more comfortable than her normal suit.
For sure, it does look like when Arrow said, you know what, I want to be able to do this, right? Yeah. And he had it looks like that.
It looks way more comfortable.
Right. And there is something retro punk
Sensational.
about that look that I really do love. I really
Her
do love
sleeves
that
are
look.
not all the way down. I liked it.
And
I
she
liked
got
it.
muscular too. She got really fucking muscular.
She's ripped now. That's what it is.
Yeah. Really ripped. But yes, I am really curious to see how that plays out. But I did say that I felt as though they were going to have a Miles Morales feel like the game did, to where it's kind of like the neighborhood knows who, Miss Marvel is. And it's their secret because they want to protect their own. So I like that because I liked it when they did it for Miles. I'm like, this is really cool, right? So I'm like, a little small section of New York knows who one of the Spider-Men are, right? And it's like, we'll never say anything because he's for us, right? We don't want to ruin that. He's for us. He protects us. So I like that a lot. I really did like that a lot. But Joel, I'll go to you. What were your thoughts on this finale?
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. That things happened that I wasn't expecting. Some things happened that I was expecting. But overall, I think it was a really good finale. Like just like what Trayvon was saying, everything that happened, like the way it played out, was actually really fun. I do believe like the beginning it just felt like the whole beginning kind of felt a little convenient. Them accepting her right away, her getting her costume right away. It happened so fast. I let it go because it's fun, it's enjoy. I didn't really, I didn't care. Them basically coming up with the logo just based off of the broken like earring or whatever it was. Like, okay, that's cool. Her mother came up with that shit real quick. No, I say real quick because we don't know how much time between them and where they were and where they are now. But
well, when she got home, that was right. That was literally same night. The night turned into the very next day. But to your point, we don't know when she got back.
Right.
From where they went. So that could have been like a day or two.
How long has she been?
We were made to believe that as they were coming home was the same night Bruno and Kamran were going through whatever they were going through.
Right.
So it's like whenever she made that suit, and that fiber for that suit was very much like, you don't buy that at a store. That looks very much like Stark built your suit. But okay, all right, sure. All right. And as you guys did point out last week, bravo to Tristan. He pointed this out last week. When she pulled out the scarf, I definitely looked at that scarf and said,
"That's too short, right?"
No, that's too long. The one she had was too short. Like that can't be the
same.
You
mean the one from this episode? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, the one from this episode. Yeah, like that must be a whole different one, right? Yeah. But how does the mom even know the significance of the scarf?
That looks like a magic scarf. Like, this should get bigger.
Yeah, like, but again, how does the mom even know the significance of the scarf? At no point on screen did Kamala tell her, "Hey, I met these bunch of like assassin guys, and the one that died gave me this scarf, and it means a lot to me." So it's like, but okay, all right, fuck it, who cares? Move on. Go ahead, Joel.
No, I really enjoyed the shit out of the episode. When she actually says in the beginning, like, it was weird for me because she never said it one time, and I'm like, I guess she's just thinking in her head, I just want to get bigger. What's one way to say it? Like, okay, cool. She does it. I accepted it. She was cool looking and acting, doing it. That whole scene I actually really liked, with her and Cameron doing weird shit, fighting and all that, and him not being able to control it, and it's like kind of like obviously he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing with it, and it hurting him and stuff like that. Her getting the red daggers to take him in, basically, which is tricky because like he said, they hunt them. So it's like, see, that definitely could be sending him into a death trap for all he knows. But
really smart on Kamala's behalf, because it's like if he does turn evil, those are the people that kill people like him. So it's like those are the people best suited to deal with him were he to become an actual monster. So it's kind of pretty smart.
But they're hunting the ones with no powers, though. So it sounded like he was like, do all of you teenagers have powers?
Sure,
so it must be the first time you encountered one.
Right.
So,
yeah. But he can make an argument that Kamala, with her powers, he almost defeated her, right? Again, it was more so of playful sparring to a degree. But he felt very confident going up against her. There was no turning back. He was like, I'll fucking take you down if I need to.
Right.
I will say though, I was a little disappointed as I pass it back to you, Joel, that when she said embiggening, the whole point of embiggening is to see me. It's for us to see her embiggen.
Yeah.
That was more so just her feet. And then when we saw her again, she was just utilizing
She
her
got
arm.
taller. What do you mean?
No.
Yeah, her legs got longer. Her
Yeah.
arms
Hear
got
me.
longer.
Yeah.
When her legs got longer to showcase that she was growing bigger,
Yeah.
we just saw the legs. And then when we saw the full body again, she was regular size again and just extended her arms. If you were trying to tell me that when she said embiggening, she was growing bigger, I kind of fucking wanted to see that.
I thought she was gonna get big and start stomping on motherfuckers.
That's what I was hoping. So I'm like, when I didn't see all of it, I'm like, was that a budgetary restriction maybe? Like,
Possible.
I did not see all of it.
She
Like,
look big to
Because they had
me.
to save for the giant Cameron explosion, I guess.
when did she look big to you?
She wasn't like
the disconnect.
She
just
wasn't
like in the game. Like
She
it's
never
like
got like that.
two versions. She got big and then she got real big in the game. Remember, she did it twice. And then she did it big and then she got real big to fight the whatever that thing was.
Yeah.
She got
Modoc.
huge.
Modoc.
Yeah.
When she
Yeah,
fought
she
Modoc.
got normal. She got like
No,
a little bit, and then she got
Kree
real big.
Whatever it's
So,
called, Pre-Sentinel.
Maybe they do the real big one like Ant-Man, and then next time maybe we should do that one next time. But I
That's
thought
also
they did
something
enough.
that's very unique to her. She stretches, but she can get bigger.
Yeah.
And that's one of her things. Which, with her powers, she should be able to do that. But again, it's still very early on her use of her abilities. So we're just figuring, like, she right now it's just shields, platforms, and now obviously her embiggening her arms, stretching, legs, arms. But we don't know what else she can actually do. That'll come in time, right?
You know that's the Bengal does because
Again, we don't 100% know what that Bengal does.
I think now we
that's some abilities.
not now. We knew it was Kree technology before, but
Mhm.
now this all but confirms it because it seems like whatever Carol was doing was simultaneously at the same time that Bengal just activated.
Right.
And that's what kind of flipped them in
Reversed
reverse.
I just read something that really has me just thinking very hard about it. That the Carol found the other one, and that's why they swapped.
I mean,
Well, it'd be weird. She didn't have it in her hand.
right. And
There's something gold on her wrist.
No,
but it
that was
wasn't-
like a comm link. That was like a
Oh,
comm link. Actually, wait, Jayla, can you pull up the photo of that I sent you? The
Captain
ones of
Marvel?
Captain Marvel, because those are really good like HD photos that we'll be able to see it better. But I don't think that was a Bengal. But what were you gonna say, Mike? Before I pass it back to Joel.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in right quick and just pose a question.
Mhm.
Are we sure that that's Captain Marvel? Because if you guys remember
yeah, I do.
Kamala's first appearance,
Yeah.
she shapeshifts into Carol Danvers.
Right.
So
And
what
I
if
think
that's
that's an
her?
homage to that. That's
Yeah, but you see how
Well,
she was looking though. Like,
Exactly.
she
Exactly.
didn't look in
It
the mirror.
It didn't look like she recognized where she was. So if
Right.
that's still you,
I
that's
argue
true.
though that she's looking and she notices that she's looking at her hands and then she looks up at the posters and she's probably realizing like, why do I look like Carol Danvers? She didn't say
Well, she didn't
where
look in
am
the
I.
mirror,
She
though.
just said,
yeah, but there was
oh
no
no.
mirror.
type
There
of
was
deal.
no. There was no
I mean,
mirror.
you know
She
what?
didn't
You
see
can
her.
tell if your hands are a completely different color though, and you're in a completely different costume.
I don't know.
I think-
She didn't say
To me,
where
she
am
looked
I.
around
She
like-
said, oh no. Which
She saw
I feel
herself
like
everywhere.
means
Like,
she
why?
recognized
Yeah,
the
why am I all
reason.
over the wall? What the hell?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
how I took it.
Yeah, it did seem more so like I'm in my biggest fan's bedroom, but why?
Yeah.
Why?
I understand where you're coming from because that was my first thought. Because that's exactly from the comic books.
Right.
It just didn't.
Carol.
It didn't seem like she teleported to me. It
But
seemed like
also-
something happened and it just launched her into the closet.
Also, we talked about this before a few episodes ago when we were saying the likelihood of this show being so Pakistani and just being ingratiated and how beautiful that is. The optics of you turning your Pakistani hero into Carol Danvers definitely screams one of those. You shouldn't do that.
Oh,
I mean,
You
but that was the
should not
point
do
of the
that.
storyline, right? Is that she was, at least in the comics, she projected herself as she had to look like Carol Danvers.
No. And that's what we were saying. We were saying for the comics it worked because the timeline where it came out, sure. Now, do not do that. Now, again, I'll say this, Mike. I'll say this. you saying that, if we get to the Marvels and it turns out to be true, I wouldn't be like, oh, what? Because like you said, that is very comic accurate. I'm just saying, to me, for a show that went away from comic accurate, for that to be the one thing that you're like, we got to put that in there. It's very weird.
It just
very
doesn't.
weird.
Where it's placed now in the story of the show, it wouldn't make as much sense as originally. When it first happened, that was the first thing that happened when she came out the cocoon.
And remember the importance of it happening when it did in the comics was because she had no confidence in herself.
Right.
It took her being confident, being a brown-skinned girl from Jersey City. She has all that confidence now. So you turning her into Captain Marvel seems more like a comedic thing than it does a confidence thing, which is what it should be.
It depends on how they approach it, though, because we have Bruno say she is essentially a mutant. Mm-hmm. We know that this Bangle has crazy power. What if her mutant ability is the shapeshift and big and stuff we know from the comics?
That's what I'm assuming.
And all the cosmic stuff is coming from the Bangle. So the best way to communicate that is say, hey, she can now shapeshift all of a sudden.
I'm assuming the energy stuff comes from her Nor.
You know, we said the energies come from inside of her. So
yeah,
I don't
know.
The has a different.
The embiggening stuff could be the mutation, but the energy stuff it should be part of her Nor background, right? From the Nor dimension.
Yeah, the Nor dimension.
I don't know. Similar to what Cameron had, and we don't know for sure if Cameron is a mutant. I guess, right?
Well, we can assume he's not because he didn't have those powers to begin with.
Right.
And like the mother just gave them to him, which is a whole nother question of its own. But her shapeshifting, just I don't know. It's best just to just avoid that. It's better if they just swap spots. You know what I'm saying?
I hear what you're saying. I'm just saying, let's keep that in mind since we don't have 100% confirmation on anything.
That's fine with me. It's a possibility.
Because again, Marvel's come and they didn't switch spots. I feel like a lot of people might be a little, what the hell, guys? type of deal.
Wait, you're saying if they didn't switch spots?
Yeah, like if people are under the assumption that they did for another year before that movie comes out, that might be an issue. Is all I'm saying. So let's just.
Well, now it's a mystery. Like, what happened?
Well, I can almost guarantee you there's no way that the trailer doesn't somewhat lend to that. Like, it's starting with Kamala kind of going, where the hell am I? Like, I could definitely see that. I don't think we'll have to wait a full calendar year to kind of get somewhat of a payoff. So if we see Kamala kind of like, where the hell am I? We know they just swap spots. And I believe we'll have that before this year is over.
The mega panel.
That trailer. Wait, say it again?
I said the mega panel.
Maybe.
We might not see it, but we'll hear.
I think it's a little far out. I think more so maybe the one towards the end of this year where we'll get it, because if it comes out in June or July, it wouldn't be unreasonable to believe that they start the hype in October, leading into next year rather than in July, and then you have that big ass gap.
No, I'm saying we won't see it. They'll see it, but we'll read about it, or.
I don't even necessarily think so. But again, I've been wrong today. I was gonna say before. Fuck it, I've been wrong today. So who knows? Maybe you're right. But what else stood out to you, Joel?
The fact that they announced her mutation. They said that there was a mutation, and obviously the X-Men theme played during that announcement.
Just really quickly, Joel, I zoomed in on that photo, and the yellow Trayvon that you're seeing is just part of her glove.
Okay.
Because when you look at her wrist, there's nothing there. It's the yellow on the glove. Yeah. Go ahead, Joel. I'm sorry.
But like I was saying, the mutation thing, that was big. That was a very big reveal. It was the first time. This is the second time that theme is played in something MCU related this year. So at least in that regard, I know that that'll probably be their theme going forward, and that excites me like inside a lot. Because I know once it hits in the movies, I'm gonna probably cry. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be like a little child. But them saying that they're basically retconning her and making her a mutant. Which at first, when it first happened, I'm like, oh, that's disappointing because I just don't want the Inhumans to fall to the wayside. not so much disappointed that she's an Inhuman. I'm more Inhumans in general. I'm more disappointed for than her being an Inhuman. You know what I mean? Because back in the day, she most definitely would have been a mutant. But back in the day, they were trying to push Inhumans a lot. They created the New Humans, trying to push Inhumans. Because why? They didn't have the movie rights to the mutants. So what did they do? They tried to push Inhumans to make them more popular, and she's a result of that. Quaker's a result of that. Didn't really work out like we all planned it. The mutants are back, and now she's retconning on the mutants. So for me, it came full circle, in my opinion. So that's why I'm not as
trash.
You know what I mean?
Blew the head off.
For Inhumans in general, I am disappointed because I do want to see them. They teased them this year, so I do feel that it's not over. I do feel we'll get Inhumans at some point, but right now, the mutants are here and they're gonna take priority. That just seems like it is what it is, you know. And that for me, I think probably hit the hardest. But you know, I'm gonna miss that part of it because that hurts, and I prefer her being what she is instead of having to adapt. But whatever, in MCU is different. It's a different animal. She's gonna have to accept that, right? And that's okay. It's not wrong to be different. You know what I mean? And look, it's still a good show. She's still a good character. So how much does it truly take away from her that she's not a human? Nothing. So that's why, I mean, to me, the whole Nora thing is more jarring than the fucking mutant thing. But, you know, something you got to deal with. The Captain Marvel reveal at the very end, I thought that was really cool. I agree. I thought it was basically her like a transmorph type of thing. Mm-hmm. But now, you know, after looking the way she reacted, to me, it looked like she just like, lost. Like, where am I now? That to me, it's how. Then after the fact, I figured, look, maybe they did just swap places. Mm-hmm. And so, but I was really digging the whole fucking new costume. Yeah, that looks cool. her hair, like everything. She looks badass. So, great episode. Great fucking episode. And I can't wait to see what the fuck they have planned.
Right. Now, where we can shoot Trayvon a little bit of bail is it is possible, Trayvon, that they were working on the other bangle, right? Like they were like trying to dissect what it is or what it can do. And that's when it kind of just boom. Like she was right there and it just like boom. You know what I'm saying? So that is possible. I don't want to kind of like poo-poo, you know, either what you said or what Mike said, because both of those things could very likely be the answers we get. It's just more so, right? It's just more so the question of how necessary is either one of those two scenarios, as opposed to what it seems like where we are right now. You know what I'm saying? Right. But again, we're about to get to three of them. We're about to get to three of them very soon. Mike, the Marvels. Mike, I'm going to pass this to you to close us out for Miss Marvel. My question is to you, knowing that the movie's called The Marvels and we have Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel, what do you think Monica Rambeau's name is going to be?
Mary Marvel. No, I'm kidding. Honestly, they could just go with Photon. I mean, it's fine. She's a Marvel in spirit. We already know that she was called Miss Marvel or Captain Marvel in the comics before.
Right.
I don't know if they give her like an original name that's not comic book accurate. It feels like Marvel's been really loose lately as far as comic book accuracy anyway. So they could come up with some other like Marvel type name for her. I don't know. Like she could just go by Monica. Honestly, nobody really goes by their hero names in these movies anymore, anyway. So it's not that big a deal.
Let's not strip everything down, Mike.
Like, I mean, you know, how often did anybody actually say Iron Man when you think back? He was Tony all the time.
Well, to be fair, that's only because we kept getting it from the hero's perspective. So it's like weird to call him by his code name when you know his actual name. Yeah. But see, that's the problem me and Joel kept saying, Mike. That's the problem when no one has a secret identity. When everybody knows who you are, I'm going to call you. Remember what I said? I said last week, nobody ever says, hey, I'm Jawan Carter. Like, no, it's, hey, I'm Jawan, right? Like, I don't need to give you my full name. So if I know you're Tony Stark, I don't ever need to call you anything but Tony, right?
I mean, this guy calls him Iron Man in Winter Soldier. He's like, make sure you got Iron Man come down my daughter's party or whatever, or my granddaughter's party. So it's not like they don't call him Iron Man.
You got one instance in the last decade. Great job.
That's the only one I can think of, Mike. It's not doesn't mean that this.
No, I feel like that might be the only one though. That's the problem.
The point you're making is valid. I'm saying they just answered that by making no one have an identity for a secret name to really matter, right? Because it's like, because you would say Iron Man if you're on the street with a bunch of people listening, because you don't want them to know he's Tony. Well, problem is they all know he's Tony, so it's like I don't really need to use that name really in any scenario when we're amongst each other, right?
All they did was Spider-Man. That was it.
That was it. That was it.
And they almost took that from us.
They almost stripped it from us. You're right. Yeah.
Spider-Man and Cap. That's about it.
But Cap's also public identity. But that you're right. They had a whole series basically passing the torch. And he didn't become Steve Rogers. He became Captain America.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. They used Cap so much. I think a lot of people thought the motherfucker's name was Captain America.
Right. They never called him. A lot of the time they just call him Cap.
Right.
Ant-Man's name a lot, and they know his identity too.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so you don't think it'll be Marvel, a Marvel specific name that she gets?
I really don't, honestly.
Okay. All right. So what were your thoughts on this finale?
Oh yeah, on this finale, I enjoyed it for the most part. The finale, I just feel like it's a byproduct of the previous episode, where you wrap up like your main focus, your main villain, in the penultimate episode and not the finale. It kind of leaves some loose ends. So we get Damage Control being like the big bad in the last episode, and it just didn't really work for me. But that's been the show as a whole, right? For me, I've been enjoying like the slice of life aspects, Kamala discovering her origin, her powers, that type of stuff. None of the villains have really clicked. So having like this giant battle at the end was, it did nothing. It was cool. It wasn't awful. But I'm just kind of sitting there like, yeah, this is not the parts of the show I particularly enjoyed, but it's the finale, so it has to happen for the majority of the episode. Right. But all the character stuff I thought was great. The mutant line was weird. It just kind of felt like an add-on, really, because we already had all this time devoted to Kamala's powers and her origin, and you throw mutants at us last second. I don't know. That just didn't really work for me because
the only reason it worked for me is because it explained why they can't wear the bangle and use the same abilities. That's the whole point. That like why her parents and then her brother can't do the same thing, basically.
I mean, yeah, that's a good point. It just felt really strange to have that as like one of the last lines of the episode.
It was there.
Yeah. Like Tristan said, I feel like it probably would have just been better if it was 7 episodes, maybe 8 episodes to kind of flesh out those ideas. But again, it didn't like ruin anything for me. It was fun. It was a fun series. It's probably this year one of my favorite Marvel projects. Period. So
wow,
he's great.
Yeah, I would agree with you and Tristan if the Marvels wasn't coming out next year. If the Marvels was something we just know was coming, but we didn't know when, I would definitely say, yeah, don't leave that many questions for, something we don't even know when we'll see it play out. But knowing that the Marvels is right around the corner, like literally a calendar year from now, right?
That's so kind of Marvel's problem, though, isn't it? Like, shouldn't you find the resolution to this story in the story you're telling and not saying, hey, come back in a year?
Not unless you're saying her whole story is shared with Carol and Monica, right? That's essentially your way of saying
that'll probably explain the Bengal aspect of her story.
Right. This is one big story that just combines together.
Right. It's an arc.
Yeah. Right. Because, I mean, look, Hawkeye ended very much to where that shit was closed off. You're now Hawkeye. I'm done. Right? There was no like, well, where are you going with it? They very much said, and this is done. Right? That's it. I answered it. So a few of these shows, Loki, we're going to see, it looks like we're going to see the fallout from Loki in Loki, right? Like, we don't have to wait for any, we'll see the shit in Loki. So a lot of these shows do seem rapid.
It does take place out of time. So you can see,
Right.
I just feel like to resolve, like, a character's arc in their story, I'm not opposed to, like, leaving things for the future, for future seasons, or future movies. But Kamala's origin, I feel like, is a very important aspect, and it probably should have been addressed in Kamala's show.
I agree. I
Wait,
absolutely
What do you
agree.
mean origin?
Well, if we're still talking about the Bangle and all that has to do with Captain Marvel, that means that stuff's still not resolved. That's still lingering questions that they attempted to kind of cover in this show, and then they just said, "No, we're gonna just punt the ball that way and come back next year."
Well, I don't agree with that, because if you're giving us information about the Bengal, we all agree it's Kree technology. There should be no circumstance where you're answering Kree questions and Danvers is not a part of that, right? Because it's like, well, if you have Kree questions, there's nobody better that you can reach out to than Carol Danvers herself. And I don't think under any circumstances there needs to be an episode that Carol Danvers shares with Miss Marvel. That completely defeats the purpose. She can have a cameo, but to have an episode centered around her learning about Kree technology with Danvers, that's something that you could put in Danvers' movie that can co-feature Kamala, rather than putting Danvers in Kamala's show. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm saying that Bangle means more than just Kamala. That's why Joel's saying the mutation is her origin. That's her power. The
Then
Bangle
they should have focused more on that part. That's
ability.
exactly my point, though,
Well,
right?
But I think that was Bruno's way of saying we didn't know. Like I'm not a professional in this. Like I'm not Selvig. I didn't know. So now that I find out, now you know,
and it's,
now you can do whatever you want to do.
It's also Marvel's way of connecting her with Carol Moore, because like literally she was a legacy character without not actually being a legacy, because she had no connection other than the fact that she was a big fan of her.
Right.
That was the only connection they had in the comic book. And she took her name, you know.
And remember, Mike, remember what one of me and your biggest issues were with Doctor Strange is that it felt like it gave no proper continuation of what WandaVision gave us. It kind of felt like there was a gap, and then you just went and did Multiverse of Madness, right? So with this is kind of eliminating that. So when we get to the Marvels, there isn't this like, well, this is really weird. Where is this coming from? It very much ends to where it's like, I'm very dependent on whatever Danvers does next, right? And it kind of just carries into that. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just going to say I agree with what you're saying, but now it kind of adds that gap to the end of Miss Marvel. So it's still almost the same thing where it didn't really, for me, again, it didn't have a satisfying conclusion by leaving that being a major plot thread just kind of dangling there in her own show to just carry it over to somebody else's project.
It's not. It's shared. Or else it would have been called Captain Marvel too.
That is also
Mike,
very fair.
Mike, I agree with you though. Like, I feel like that's just good.
We were on the same side.
That's just good storytelling. Like, and I think that's what I was trying to say earlier about how I felt about this season. Like, I feel like every season of a show should have, even if you're going to carry over threads into the next project, there should be a satisfying beginning of an arc and conclusion of an arc within that season. And I felt like that's what there was so much that was left dangling.
But I think that's
dangling for something else. And
I think that's where we're disagreeing. It's because this isn't supposed to be an end of an arc. This is supposed to be the middle of her arc, right? And then when you get to season 2, that'll be the end of her arc.
It's still a season of the show that should have a satisfactory beginning, middle, and end.
What we're saying is, look at the Marvels.
And that's fine because I have my
part
opinion.
of season 1. No. I definitely get that. I'm saying, but look at the Marvels. It's part of season 1.
I guess this is where we're kind of.
That was a response to Trayvon's to you. Yeah, to me. It's my.
No, I said in the MCU.
Oh, okay.
I think that's where we're kind of getting split off here, though, because you're saying it's a continuation of her arc, and that's fine. But think back to the other solo projects, right? Spider-Man's arc in Homecoming starts and ends in Homecoming, and he shows up in other stories.
No, it doesn't. It starts in Civil War and leaks into Homecoming, because remember, Homecoming is essentially right after Civil War, and then it takes place a few months after.
I wouldn't say his arc starts in Civil War, though. I mean, he cameos there, but his storyline doesn't start there.
His storyline 100% starts there. What? He had the whole.
His
great
arc
power
starts
great
off screen completely.
Oh, fair. If we want to say that,
like Civil
But
War
his
wasn't an
MCU
origin
arc.
story, is all I'm saying. So
his MCU arc, though, was Civil War, where he got his suit.
That's not an arc. That's a cameo.
No,
Yeah.
that's an arc. He got his suit. He met the Avengers. That's 100% an arc.
But it was like kind of there's not enough there for it to be a full arc. It's more like a cameo, and that's why when you see Homecoming,
premise of
it
Homecoming,
answers
though.
every question that you had from Civil War, and then proceeds to go on.
But I'm
You
confused
start
on how
off
that's
with
not part of
Homecoming,
an arc.
like wanting to be a part of the Avengers.
I mean, it's not okay. So
I don't
when
know how
I
that's
look at a
not part of an
character
arc.
arc, it's got to start, middle, and end, and it's usually contained in one story. You can have more than one arc, and
Absolutely.
Spider-Man has more than one arc throughout the
That's what
entire
I'm saying.
Marvel Cinematic
Yeah,
Universe.
that's what I'm saying.
But his story is still complete in Homecoming. You can watch that movie without watching anything else and get Spider-Man. Whereas in Miss Marvel and a lot of the Disney Plus shows, we're going to introduce you to this idea. We're going to drag it out for 6 episodes, and then we're going to make you wait to figure out what the heck the Darkhold does, or what the hell the Bangle
I
Actually-
feel like
does.
everything's
Actually,
like that though.
No,
That's what
hold
she's
on,
saying, though.
hold on. Where I'll push back is if you want to say that, then I'll give you Miss Marvel and WandaVision. Everything else had a proper beginning, middle, and end. Falcon and Winter Soldier did. There is nothing that leaks out anywhere else.
Not, I mean, when the
Loki did.
director of Cap 4 says he has to earn the title Captain America, then what was the point of that?
Well,
entire
that to
show?
me that's a complete fuck
You
up
say
on
that.
whatever the writers did. That's differing from where they want to go now. But that very much didn't end to where I'm like, well, I have no idea where they're going next.
That's
No, it
true.
very much
Well,
is like he's Captain
For
America.
that show, yes.
Right, yeah. Loki, that very much ended to where the villain is a question, but not Loki. Loki very much is answered. The villain now is, how does the villain play in the overarching of the MCU? And then Hawkeye. Hawkeye very much had a beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah,
Passed it on,
That's
retired.
more limited too. Though.
So I'm saying 3 out of the 5 shows so far, I believe had a beginning, middle, and end.
I think the
but if
problem
you
want
want to say WandaVision and Miss
with
Marvel,
Ms.
I won't argue that
Marvel,
anymore.
they added so many extra elements that they did it to themselves. Like you have 3 different parts of this one character now that they just didn't close all the loops.
And
That's
you know
how I
what? You know what? I want to apologize to Tristan and Mike. I want to apologize to you guys. And the reason why I want to apologize is I think the problem comes from, and I'm not saying you guys' problem, I'm saying my personal problem, comes from the fact that I always felt as though it was really weird that they were converting her sequel into a Marvel's project. Because once you did that, it always felt like, well, there's always going to be a story that never gets ended in one spot. Because it's a really good chance we see these characters in so many different places. So you can kind of expand the story. But to expand the story, like you said, you do have to take a sacrifice, which is now you cannot watch the Marvels if you have not seen A, WandaVision, or B, Miss Marvel. Like you were saying, like how Homecoming, you don't need to see Civil War, but it is a really cool introduction to
Really
the
don't.
character to
Yeah.
leak into Homecoming.
But
So
I
wanna
think that's the
apologize to you
difference,
guys.
right?
You guys were right. I apologize.
Yeah,
Go
but
ahead.
that's the difference, right? Where you don't need those other things to understand Spider-Man.
Okay.
It seems like now everything is folding into each other so much, nothing has a satisfying conclusion. It just keeps on going. And that's just, again, love the show. I love this episode. That's just a problem I have with Phase 4 in general, is that nothing seems to matter because it's getting pushed into the next movie or the next series over and over.
Yeah, it's not easy for everyone. For me, as someone that I know to look forward, like I don't need it to finish now. Like
Right.
I don't care as much because I know I'm going to get it eventually, and it's not easy for everyone. It's like end it now, close the loop. I don't want to worry about later. But what they're doing is this giant long narrative that
Right.
you're not going to get everything closed off, and you're going to get open. And especially with Ms. Marvel, it's going into a movie where she's sharing it with 2 other people. So
Right.
it's like,
Now,
And
when
we
you
knew
say that,
so-
Mike, do you mean movies or shows?
I mean, well, the movies are standalone. They've always been standalone. I
Right.
think that's the issue with the Disney Plus shows, is that Kevin Feige keeps saying they're 6-hour movies, and that's just
Mhm.
not how you tell a story, really. Because
I don't think he should have explained it like that, because essentially what these shows are to a degree, again, for me, specifically WandaVision and Miss Marvel, they're just commas, right? So you're formulating this long ass paragraph. This is just a comma in that paragraph. At no point will any of these shows necessarily, again, with Miss Marvel and WandaVision, be a period, right? Because that's not the end of the sentence. The end of the sentence is multiverse in the Multiverse of Madness. Now, whether or not you think it was a proper conclusion to everything, I will definitely never argue that, right? And again, with Ms. Marvel, we have to see how it plays out in the Marvels, as you were saying, is part of the problem. But I think some of these shows, unfortunately, have to be looked at as a comma, never a period. And if you look at it like that, that's where it's like one person's story is leaking into someone else's story. So it's and then you get the rest of it there. Now, should it be that way? I'll never argue you on that, Mike. Because I remember saying when they announced it's the Marvels, I'm like, why? Why can't she just get her sequel? Why? What are you doing? But now that you see it, I get that, Trayvon.
I mean, it's a cool idea.
Now
It's
that
just
I
kind of
see
weird.
it's like, how does it play out?
Weird.
I'm just curious to see now how does it. And again, remember, another branch of this olive tree, and we don't know if it comes out before or not, is Secret Invasion. That's another branch of this tree. Because that's where Monica went. Now, again, that could all be answered in the Marvels, but if it's not, that's another branch of this tree. That's a comma. You got to get the Secret Invasion, and then that, right? Well, to me, I always think that's a false narrative, Trayvon, because in the MCU, everything keeps you watching. It's not one specific thing that keeps you watching.
Like, I mean, for us, yeah, maybe, but like regular people, like, hey.
I don't think regular people understand what they're seeing. So I think for them, it's just like, I just watch it anyway. I don't really know what's happening here.
It's the funniest thing having normal people watching. Like, what am I watching next? Like, I don't understand.
Like, I don't know what's coming next, but guess what? I'll be there. But Mike, no, did anything else stand out to you in this episode?
And this specific episode, no, because I was behind, so I binged watched like the last half of the season, like the last 3 episodes today.
Dedication. That's how much Mike loves us. Listen to that. We love you too, Mike.
Yeah, it was. I think that's why I've had the issues that I had. If I watched it week to week, maybe I feel a little differently. But watching it pretty much in one go, I'm kind of like, Marvel at this stage doesn't really want to have, like you said, have it be a period. In all honesty, each show should be a period.
A normal show should be.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But it's a comma. And I think that's just the fundamental problem I have with most of the shows. I have fun watching them. I'm not going to sit here and say I didn't enjoy Ms. Marvel, but I wish it kind of wrapped up a little cleaner for Ms. Marvel's sake, regardless of what happens in the Marvels, because I know that movie's going to be awesome. I can't wait for it.
I'm curious, when you say that, what did you want them to wrap up? Exactly.
Well, again, like you explain her origin and the lore and all that stuff for 6 episodes, to then say, oh, by the way, we were wrong about X, Y, and Z. You're going to find out in a year in the Marvels movie. And that's just kind of strange to me. Like when Spider-Man gets his powers and they finally explain how he gets his powers, it's done. We don't go back to Oscorp. We don't go back to the lab or wherever he got the spider bite from.
Never.
It resolves and it ends. And
actually,
it's just kind of weird having that lingering question going on.
I like how you say that, because Trayvon, to give a really cool comparison, I believe, to what Mike is saying is, you know how Infinity War was the birth of the Spidey sense, right?
Okay.
We got in a specific movie, beginning, middle, and end, the explanation of the Spidey sense, right? The Spidey tingle, right? The Peter tingle, I'm sorry. They explained it all in that one movie. It wasn't left over to be explained somewhere else, right? Like they weren't like, oh my God, he finally is starting to know what it is, but wait till you see Avengers 5, where they fully explain how he got that, right? Like I get what Mike is saying completely. I do. Only reason why I say I can understand in this specific scenario is because it's Kree technology, and Kree is directly connected to Captain Marvel. So I could see why you want to kind of carry that over to her, where maybe she can better help her understand what's going on. So I get both sides of it, but that's why I want to apologize to you and Tristan, because once I heard what you guys were saying, I'm like, yeah, no, yes, I did watch Sopranos, and when that shit just faded to black, I'm like, that's not how you end the show, right?
Yeah.
Don't make me fill in the blanks. Fill in the fucking blanks, right? Like I've been watching this for years. Fill that shit in, So I do completely agree with the both of you, and that's why I apologize, because I'm like, I completely understand where you're coming from. That should not be how you end the show. And if it wasn't Marvel, we would not accept that shit. And that's why I'm saying I apologize to you and Tristan. Because if it was done anywhere else, I probably wouldn't accept it as much as I do for Marvel.
Yeah, I think that the benefit is just having the tagline "Miss Marvel will return." That's the saving grace for the scene, really.
Usually, always is.
No,
usually, always that's the life preserver. Where it's just like, well, wait, where is this going?
not over.
And you're like, oh, okay, she'll return in the Marvels. Gotcha. Okay, I get it. Go ahead, Trayvon. Go ahead. Before we move on.
No, I don't know. Yeah.
Is it confusing you, or you just wholeheartedly disagree? Like, it seems like it's.
I don't see where it wasn't. Maybe the bangle wasn't resolved, but everything else, I don't like.
I mean, if anything, it's more than that. I mean, there's a lot of shit I still don't understand. But
yeah, it's more as a whole.
I felt like would come in
the story.
This
itself
isn't a
is over.
series end. That's what I'm saying. So
Right? No, I agree. That's why I'm not worried about it, because we're gonna get.
Yeah,
That's
no,
fine.
I think what Mike and Tristan are saying is they know what's coming next. It's just more so you shouldn't have left as many questions as you did, right?
Yeah.
Because when Moon Knight ended, remember, there was only one question. Where do we see this character next? It wasn't like, oh, I have no idea where this narrative is going. Like, no, they ended everything. It was very clear
But it
where
still
that
left you
story
with a
beginning,
post
middle,
credit
and
scene
end
with
was.
his other character.
But again, remember,
so
they
you
set
wanna know
that up.
too?
No, they set that up all through the season. We now have the payoff of it. It wasn't a question of, well, wait a minute, who is this guy? We got to wait till something else to see who he is? No, now it's like, well, now I just want to see more. There's no question. It's just excitement. You know what I'm saying? But with this, there were so many questions of like, well, shit, you said mutation. Are we slowly growing into the word mutant? And what that means? Question. Then you go, the Bengal. Question. Right? So I'm like, they
didn't fully.
Well, that's the
Yeah,
point.
they didn't fully
So
explain
I'm
the
like-
North dimension. I'm like,
yeah.
There should be some periods in there. They don't have. I mean,
too
everything
many
overall
rushes.
does have to be. Yeah, there has to
They
be some
gave us
periods
everything
in
we
there.
wouldn't care though. Like
I mean, shit, damage control. Question. Like,
I don't-
how
I mean,
are you
they're,
still,
like,
are you still in
irrelevant.
operation
they're
doing
not
what you
irrelevant.
did?
They're more relevant now than they've ever been.
Yes, because they're about to be in She-Hulk. So I'm
right.
like, now, like, do we see the fallout of this in She-Hulk? So, like, yes, there were so many
there was
questions.
a fallout. They all got
It was
fired.
very open ended.
No,
But
but
who
see,
are they? They're
Like,
not Shield.
but time
There
out.
was too many open-ended.
We're not made to believe that they got fired. We're made to believe that
Well,
he
she got
fired
fired.
her.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
But she didn't matter. He is the glue. Since they've really
That's-
given the damage control a
That's
face.
the second time we've seen
He's
him.
been the glue. Right.
Right.
So I'm like, he matters. And now the question is, what is this? Like, really, who tasked you and
Yeah.
why are you doing it?
When did they evolve? Probably during the
Right.
snap.
Because remember, in Homecoming, when they were announced, it was just essentially, hey, Stark and the Avengers blew up shit, clean it up. Right? Pick
Yeah.
up all the weapons and
Well,
shit.
it was Stark that created it, right?
Right. Right. They were just a
original
cleanup
Star
crew.
Control.
Right. They were a cleanup crew.
I guess. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Mike. No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, if this helps, Trayvon, think about like the Marvel Netflix shows, right?
Mhm.
Daredevil season 1 is his origin. We see his first confrontation with Fisk, and that story wraps up. In season 2, an entirely new story starts, and that's my issue. Is that instead of putting a bow on Kamala's origin and then having her have another adventure or another story, we're just dragging the same story across a series and another film, or
The
maybe even
universe.
season 2.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's what I like. Just watching it as a TV show, it doesn't work for me. As a Marvel product, I totally get the logic. I think that's just the thing that's annoying, is that Marvel defies all logic.
But
I
again,
think,
the
I
most
think that's what it
important.
is. That's how I watch it. I watch it as an MCU project, not just a Disney Plus TV show. I expect
I do too.
the thread should go to the movies. I expect all that, so I'm like waiting for it.
Now,
So,
hold on.
That's how I look at it.
I agree.
That's
The
what I mean.
threads,
It's not
but
frustrating.
I don't think this show ended with threads. I think this show ended with a full-on fucking ball of yarn, right? Like not a thread, a full-ass ball of yarn that now we have to see them unweave as we go forward.
And I'm excited.
And I think
to watch
that's
that.
what.
Okay.
But here's the thing: all of us are excited. We're just saying that in a regular show, these are some of the things we might not be as accepting to.
They could at
But
least
in the
close one
MCU
loop. What they
Right.
did is they opened another loop to end the show instead of closing one.
Right. That's all we're
Fucking
saying.
annoying.
That's all we're saying. You just put more question marks for things we were looking for answers for. And look, Trayvon, this isn't new. Remember, this was a lot of our problem. The last go around we did the MCR, so we just felt like, I'm sorry, not the last time we did the MCR. The last time we broke down something Marvel, we kind of felt like, are you creating more fucking questions? And you answered none, right? Like Doctor Strange ended. We don't know if he closed off the multiverse. We have no fucking idea. We know that incursions are coming. Well, that's a whole nother fucking question. What are incursions in the MCU? We still didn't finish the fucking crisis of the multiverse. So that's what we mean by you can't create more questions when you've answered fucking nothing.
That's a
Right?
question. in itself.
Like-
When they do eventually solve the multiverse issue, will they close it? Will they
Right.
actually bring it back to the normal timeline, or will they let the multiverse exist?
Right. Will they pull a CW to where they're like, we closed it, and then Cisco comes the
Lies.
very next season and he's like, no, they're still out there. Well, what the fuck was he talking about? Like, what happened here? So that's what I'm saying, Trayvon. Two things can be true. I think everyone here is excited to see how it plays out. We just sometimes don't want the 365 to figure out what what some of these answers are. You can clear some of this shit up.
I'm excited,
You know what
but
I'm
I'm
saying?
also frustrated.
right. Excitedly frustrated. There we go.
There you go.
There we go. But yeah, I am with Joel. When we get to this X-Men movie, that shit better start with that theme. You putting it everywhere, but where
Dude,
it needs to be.
I swear to God,
Like,
I
Just
teared
messing
up.
with it at this point.
I teared up when Xavier showed up and they played the theme in the background. I was like, "Oh my God!" When the movie hits, I'm gonna die.
yeah. I mean, shit. Even him doing this was just like there's something so simplistic about.
And they
this.
showed the waves coming out of his house.
Yes,
Yeah, that
yes,
was cool.
yes, yep.
We are one step closer to getting Rogue versus Captain Marvel.
Oh,
We are. Yes, we are. Yes, we
hold
are.
on, baby,
This is
don't
why
let
I
go.
keep saying when everyone's just like, well, where is the MCU going? I'm like, if this is any indication, we are heading very close to not only Secret Wars, but very possibly X-Men versus the Avengers. We are very close to both of those scenarios. We're not far from them. And if that's where they're heading, God bless you.
Still have to.
God bless you. God bless you. No, I just mean that's the journey. One of those two
It's
things.
gonna
is the
happen.
journey.
Yeah, definitely gonna happen.
For sure. Yeah. And look, I don't know how Trayvon's going to feel when Rogue is starting to lay some ass kicking on Captain Marvel a little bit. I don't know how he's going to feel. It's the inevitable.
No, she start flying, I'll be
It's
fine.
inevitable.
I mean, that's what happens. She steals her powers.
What are you
puts her
gonna
in a
do when they
coma,
both
and learns to
fly?
fly?
Yeah, what are you gonna do when they both fly, Trayvon? How you gonna choose
Cry.
somebody? How you gonna choose somebody? And then wait, Trayvon, what are you gonna do if Wanda then flies in? How will you pick a side?
Whoever wins.
You are just an
I
unloyal.
wonder if they advance it because Rogue only ended up taking her strength and her flight. Never took her light powers when she stole her powers.
Yeah, her binary powers.
Her
Yeah.
binary power. Never went
Mhm.
binary. Okay, so
Yeah.
I wonder why.
I also do want to know what Monica's.
Because they didn't want her to have them.
That's really all it
To
is.
make it as simple as that, yeah.
I do want to know what Monica's next step is. We know Embiggen, we know binary. What's Monica's next step? Like we haven't seen her
Light
powers
speed,
kind of flesh
baby.
out a little
Yeah,
bit.
we have to show us.
Yeah, so I'm curious what the name of her next step is because I'm very curious to see what that is. But all right, no, go ahead, Joel. Go ahead.
So maybe because right now she has two names, right? Photon or Spectrum. Obviously, she was Ms. Marvel at one point, or Captain Marvel. But maybe they'll use Photon as the name, and maybe whatever her power is, Spectrum, right?
Yeah. Okay, I got you. I like that. I like that a lot.
I dig it.
All right, so let's head into Thor. Our spoiler full breakdown of Thor. You guys have heard us tease it in different places. We are now going to break down in full spoilers Thor Love and Thunder. All right, I want to start with Tristan. Tristan, I want to start with you on this. I want you to walk me through your thoughts on Thor 4, No Gore, Love and Thunder.
Why is Billy McGuire here?
Because Jayla's about to bully us. That's why. That's what's about to happen.
Yeah. Disco dance.
We love the energy. Jayla's like, I'll take no Thor slander here. But Tristan, walk me through your thoughts on Thor 4.
I really enjoyed Love and Thunder. I finally accepted, because I don't know if I've ever said this on Geek Vibes Nation podcast. I was really upset when the third one came out because I was like, thematically, it doesn't match the first two, and they're going in a drastically different direction. But with this one, I'm like, okay, I finally accepted it. This is where they're going. This is brighter, more comedic Thor, whatever. We've left the Shakespearean stuff alone. So, I've grown to accept it. People were saying it was too funny, and I was like, no, I felt like the comedy worked. I'm glad that we got Jane Foster back. Natalie Portman said there was a lot of stuff cut from the movie. You can definitely tell that.
They're in the middle of a lawsuit because of one of the things they cut from this movie.
Oh, see, I didn't even know that. So
Lena Headey from Game of Thrones had a scene in this movie as one of the gods that Gore kills, and they completely cut it. I think they cut it without telling her, and that's why.
But they're apparently suing her. That's my issue. I don't know why are they suing her.
Really, I heard that she was suing them.
No, I think
she's getting sued.
Wait, say it again, Mike.
Talking.
She's getting sued.
Oh, she's getting sued.
Yeah, talking about it.
Yeah, she's getting sued. I don't know why she's getting sued. It's weird.
I don't know why she would get sued for talking about it. She only said it after the movie came out.
Is that what it is? She broke her fucking contract.
Maybe.
But she said it after the movie came out. At that point, why does it matter? You ain't gonna. And look, we just heard from Taika. He ain't never gonna show the shit. So it's like, what secrets did she break? Yeah,
that's one of my issues with the film. Like we only saw him kill a few guys. We only saw him kill one guy, and then we saw the aftermath of one murder. I was just kind of like,
I mean, technically, if you want to count Jane to a degree, maybe.
And I don't count her.
Yeah,
so
one god.
We only saw one. I loved that Jane Foster came back. I love the dynamic between Thor and Jane. What she was like once they were on an equal footing. Not that he ever treated her like she was beneath him, but that was just a really interesting dynamic to see her be a Thor and kind of embrace the superhero lifestyle. I love how she was just determined to have like the perfect catchphrase. And it made sense considering what she was going through. Like this was kind of her last hurrah, so she was really trying to enjoy being a superhero.
Sure.
One more, I continue to enjoy Tessa Thompson as Valkyrie. She's great.
Yes.
I'm trying to think what else. Those goats were funny. People don't like the goats. The goats were funny to me.
I love the goats.
I love the goats. I love they run into that.
Two times. I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed those goats. I loved what's that guy's name? The guy that played Hercules. I know his name.
Brett Goldstein.
Brett Goldstein.
That's Roy Kent to you.
No. You know what? Actually, I'm thinking of the guy that plays Zeus. I don't know who that guy who played Hercules is.
That guy.
Very famous actor, right?
Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe. I thought he did a good job as Zeus. I want to see him come back. I do like the idea of Hercules having to hunt down Thor in the next one. I was really like the second time I was watching it. I don't know, like they were really broadcasting that Thor was going to become a dad, and it didn't click with me the first time around. And then the second time, I was like, oh, there's that whole scene where he's looking at the baby, and like there was just references to children and stuff. I mean, obviously the kids being kidnapped, and him having to save them, like that was.
I didn't catch any of that.
So I feel like they really kind of were foreshadowing that he was going to become a dad. I'm really interested in. I'm excited for that new arc for him being a father. I think we got some potential new Young Avengers with that daughter and even Heimdall's son. I could see. I'm not saying that they would show up. I could see them showing up in the Young Avengers in the future. Like if they did, I'd be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. They introduced them for a reason. If they don't, that's fine. I do want to see more of those characters. So I think Young Avengers is a way of bringing them back in the future. But overall, yeah, it was a really good movie. I really want to see where this next arc takes Thor.
Yeah, well, as far as what you were saying about the kids, clearly what they're doing there is that when the time comes, that will be the new Thor in Heimdall. So if they're not in Young Avengers, they definitely still have a big place here in Marvel, or in the MCU, rather. I'm more interested to see how they utilize Love in the comics now. Like, how do they ingratiate her into the comics and make that a thing, right? Because the comics will always further explain shit that the MCU is kind of just like, okay, here she is. And you're like, well, hold on. All that, you didn't explain shit. Like, what is she? So I'm like, the comics usually always take their time and fully draw out what she can do, who she is, and all that. But I'll break down categorically to what you were saying. The goats, I didn't hate the goats. I hated the fucking screaming. That's what I hated. The goats were fine. You can break the goats.
Yeah, that's what made it funny.
That was the worst fucking part.
You never seen the
screaming was
video
so
of the
loud.
goats?
I did, and I hated that. It's just so loud.
No,
That's it. That's my only
best.
issue. It's so loud. But yeah, you want to put the goats in there? I had no problem.
When they ran into the planet, like that was, they should have been screaming because
that was one of the times where it was funny.
Yeah,
it was
that
about,
was one of
see,
the
it was about
times
two times it was funny. All the time was like too much.
The first time he got him was hilarious, and then when they hit the planet was hilarious. But all the other times in between, I'm just like, I get it.
Oh, Joanne, let's go back to what I told you. I told you this months ago. I said Jane Foster, that lady is not making it out of this movie alive.
You did.
I told you, and you were like, "Well, no," because
believe it.
they would bring her back for yada yada. I said, "No, bro, she's gonna die."
You did,
I
and
was
I
shocked.
will.
I
I
was
will
shocked.
repeat. I will repeat what I said then again right now because it still holds. It makes no sense you brought her back for the sole purpose of killing her when you essentially got rid of her off camera in Ragnarok. That's why I said no way you bring her back just to kill her. You didn't need to bring her back, right? But I was telling Joelle the only reason why I accept it is in the comics it took 3 Thors to kill Gore, right? So I'm like, oh, okay. So if you're essentially saying you're gonna use two Thors and you're not gonna make them the same person, you gotta make one Thor, one mighty Thor. Okay. But I
Valkyrie
still
was
hold
Zeus's lightning bolt.
right. But I
Thunderbolt.
still hold up. Again, by the way, let me just say, my apologies, you are 1,000% correct. Let me start there. So it doesn't seem like I'm avoiding that part. You are 1,000% correct. I still hold on to saying you essentially took a character no one cared about in the last movie and brought her back just to kill her. Now for us to go, well, okay, like, all right.
I mean, a 1-story arc.
Yeah, very weird. But this is why I say getting into Marvel to where I give them my heart is how I get things like that. That's why I'm like, I'm going to start to just progress it to where it's like, fuck it. Whatever you want to do. He has a tail, never had a tail. Gives a fuck. Do it, right? So that's why I'm saying, to me, I still hold firm in it made no sense. No fucking sense. And then you stripped all of what we wanted to see from her, which is all the shit she was doing once you first got the hammer, right? All that was off screen. So I'm like, you're feeding into, why are we here with her? Like, why? You know? So in one hand, I do apologize, you were right. And on the other hand, the shit still made no sense. And that's what my problem was when we were talking about it before, is that it wouldn't make any sense. And look, lo and behold, to me, shit still didn't make any sense. But yeah, I mean, I want to ask you about this, Tristan. Leaving this movie, do you feel more confident in Taika continuing this franchise, or are you of what apparently a lot of the internet feels, which is give it to somebody else? He's worn out his welcome. One good one horrible one. Let it be done.
So to answer that question, I'm going to go back to what I started off with. Like, again, the biggest problem I have with the third one is that it doesn't match the first two. What I don't want to happen is that we get these first two, another set that don't match the next two. That would, I feel like that. So I would rather he get a trilogy, he get that next one, and we have a trilogy that kind of fits together thematically, and then reinvent the wheel and do something new. But I don't want the same thing to happen again.
Yeah,
like
to me, if
that match, another two that match.
If there's ever going to be a time where Taika's not directing Thor, I think that should be where you progress it to moving the mantle, right? So the new director can come in and you're directing a new Thor. It's not that Thor, right? So it's like Taika has wrapped up what Chris Hemsworth Thor is and will forever be. That does not get changed or altered. That's that. And then you bring in Love, and Love is a new iteration or kind of just carrying on the legacy that Thor has, established. And then if you want to bring in a new director for that, by all means.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Do you guys think they'll age her up? And I feel like they're going to age her up in the next one.
I hope not. I hope not. Because to me, the reason why I can accept Cassie being aged up for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is I had 2 full movies with her, right? And now it's just like, well, okay, cool. Cool. You want to age her up because of the snap? No problem. But to me, I think what made this character is how adorable and young she was, right? Like, I know a lot of people had that problem with Stranger Things. The older these kids got, the less it was just like, well, now I'm here for the story. You are not adorable at all. Like you're grown men and women. Yeah. That's the adorability is gone. Now I'm just caring about the story rather than seeing all the hijinks kids get into, right? So for me, I would love to see Love progress through. And it's just really cool to see Chris Hemsworth go to work with his daughter every day, right? Like, there's something really fucking cool about that. So I would like to see that progress. And again, who knows? Maybe his daughter has aspirations to acting, right? That's a perfect shoe-in right there, right? You work right with your dad. You learn from your dad, and then boom, you launch into your own stardom. So I just hope that they don't. And I don't need Love to be part of the Young Avengers at all. There's a big drop off in power sets there. To where
we gotta see how powerful she is too. I mean, she's
Wait, say it
obviously
again?
powerful. So we gotta see how powerful they make her. That's what I'm saying.
Do y'all think she's stronger than?
Shit.
Think she's stronger than Thor? Because you know how when she's walking up
Think
to
she
Thor,
has-
Yes.
think
The
she has an
reflection she was
opportunity to be. Yeah, I think as she fully
Something, yeah.
understands what her powers are.
She seems to be. How do I explain this? I don't want to say reincarnated because that doesn't sound right. She is.
Manifestation.
She's a manifestation of love. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what it seems like. She's godlike.
The character
But how
from the
powerful?
comics.
We're gonna have to wait to see.
Right.
How
And-
powerful.
I do have to add this interesting because a lot of people do forget about this. Thor, the older he gets, the more powerful he gets. So I'm like, the fact that this motherfucker looks like he never is going to age ever seems like they're capping what Thor's true power can be.
It fits because he's Thor, so it works out.
No,
Y'all
but
think that-
I'm saying when he's asking, could love be more powerful than
Oh,
Thor?
than
I'm
Thor.
saying we haven't seen the full capabilities of Thor yet because the motherfucker won't age. So I'm like, the older he gets and transitions to Allfather, that is the
You have to
most
remember,
powerful. Thor.
we're also seeing him age in human years.
Oh,
You
right,
know what I
right. No,
mean?
I just mean it seems like narratively there is no importance in showing that
Yeah.
he's
We
aging.
won't ever, unless he comes from the future to the past. We probably won't. Yeah.
Right. That's what I'm saying. If they do venture into Allfather Thor, that is the most powerful Thor. And then that's where it's like, well, if he gets to that point, who knows who's stronger between the two at that point. That's why I just wanted to bring that up. But go ahead, Tristan. You were asking something.
I was gonna ask, do y'all think that? Because this is just something I thought of the second time I watched the movie. That being eternity that Gore was trying to find, and he brought Love back. Do you think eternity has his own motivations for bringing her back? Because just something about her looking in her reflection, she looks
Right.
like that being, and I'm like, I feel like that being has his own motivations for bringing her back as kind of his or its avatar or something like that.
Well,
Do you think that'll play into a future story?
I'm gonna say no because they made eternity seem like Genie from Aladdin, right? To where you can come there and make a wish. And Gore's wish was that his daughter lived.
And a limitless
So it
wish.
seems like So it seems like eternity was just like, well, I don't necessarily just bring people back to life. So I gotta to actually do that. I gotta kind of put some of me into
in
her to bring her back.
That's
You know
why
what I'm
I say,
saying?
how powerful is she? She could be very powerful, or she could be just powerful.
It depends on how much of eternity
is
gave
in
to
her. Right, exactly.
Because eternity might have
Yeah.
been like, hold on, you could fucking kill me one day. Fuck that. Here's 2%. Here's
Right.
2% milk for you.
I feel like this is going to put her in danger. Though. I hope they don't just
Possible.
abandon that. I feel like it's going to put her in danger in the future. She's kind of, again, she's this incarnation, or she has a bit of eternity inside of her. So I hope they address that in some way in the future.
I hope so.
She could possibly be the undoing of Thor. She could become the undoing of Thor. That would be the most poetic for Thor. To where Thor's just like, fuck, I can't trust any family, can I? No family. Dad lied to me. Sister tried to kill me. Brother tried to kill me. Now daughter trying to kill me. I don't know what the fuck's happening
Somebody
here.
gonna take her and use her as a battery.
Like,
No, I feel like they'll
Like American
she'd watch
Chavez?
him die.
They're gonna take her and use her as a battery. They were
Go
like,
ahead,
yes,
Tristan.
unlimited energy.
I was just gonna say, in a weird, it's going to sound weird. I feel like kind of going back to what you were saying earlier about them wrapping up his arc and like a new director coming in when somebody else takes the mantle of Thor. I do think, because he's lost all his family. Like for her to watch him die and him to go be at peace and her to take on the man, I feel like that would be a nice, not a nice ending, but as weird as it is to say, that would bring things full circle because he'd go be with his family and she would take on the mantle. And so I think she'd watch him die before she.
But now, do you see the importance of them allowing love to grow as the movies go? Because now, essentially, you have the full poetry of it. It's essentially Hemsworth giving his daughter the keys
Right.
to the franchise. rather than you bringing in whatever hotshot actress is existing in this time that you now want to put in the role. It's actually him giving it to his daughter.
Right.
And then when you see that scene of kind of her holding him, it means more because it's actually Chris Hemsworth saying, look, it's yours now. This is your world now. Go ahead and take it over. You know what I'm saying? I'm at
Marvel
peace.
cares about
I'm
that. I don't think.
No,
yeah,
no,
like,
no. But you were asking me, do I think that she will age up? And I'm saying for so
Yeah,
many different
she will.
reasons, I think they shouldn't rush to age
No,
her up.
They
You know
should
what I'm
not.
saying? Because right now she's only 11 years old, right? So if she's 11, who knows when the next time is we'll see her? Maybe you don't need to recast her. If we don't see her again for another 3 to 4 years, why can't the character just age with her? You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying. Because she didn't do a bad job in this at all. I loved
No.
every line at the end of that movie that she had, whether it was
Right.
the look she was giving, whether it was what she was saying. I mean, it gave me chills seeing her jump in the air with Thor. It was just like, this is really fucking cool. like I really love this a lot. So now I'm like, I want to see her use that hammer. And there's something adorable about how small she is wielding that big ass that big ass Stormbreaker. I want to see that again. You know, don't rush me out of that. I want to see it. But is there anything else that stood out to you, Tristan? Did you want to talk about the other credit scene of Valhalla, Jane being accepted into Valhalla?
Oh yeah, that was. I enjoyed that. I'm glad that she got accepted into Valhalla. So that could be a door for her to come back at some point in the future. But I don't want them to rush that. Like, we know Heimdall is there, and we haven't seen him come back to life yet. So
to me, I believe if Jane's ever going to come back, you should utilize it the same way we keep theorizing they'll utilize Steve and Tony, right? Like if you're doing like a Secret Wars kind of thing, so where you're bringing these dead characters back. By all means, have fun, but make sure you put them back in the fucking ground where they belong, because we've moved on by the time we've gotten to that, right?
We can let her come back as a Valkyrie and be a sister. Too.
Oh, okay.
That's the thing that happens to Jane in the comics anyway.
Yeah.
She comes
Right,
out
but
all-
at that point, we're not talking about her coming back as Thor. She's coming back
Right.
as Valkyrie.
Yeah,
That's fine. I'm saying
Yeah.
her coming back as Thor
No.
is fine if you want to use it for Secret Wars, and then put her right back in. But if you're saying she becomes a Valkyrie, no arguments here, none, not a one. But go ahead, Tristan. I'm sorry.
So yeah, last thing I was gonna say, what was it with Thor suddenly being able to dole out his powers like these kids will have for a limited amount of time? Like, it was a cool scene, don't get me wrong, but I'm like, has he always been able to? I mean, gods in mythology, they are able to like give bits of their powers to their
enchant
followers,
weapons,
but it's like, I was like, what?
In the
King
comics,
Shazam.
just so we're clear, in the comics, that hammer was emboldened as far as enchantments to Odin, right? Because remember, the comics were not quick to kill off Odin. Odin was there for fucking forever in the comics. Odin was the only one that was able to enchant or unenchant something. So if that was going to be spread, that was something Odin can do. How, when Odin died, the hammer was just like, well, Thor, it's you now, right? Like, you tell me what to do? It should not work that way. It's like, it shouldn't work that way. And narratively, that was very much a head scratcher, because I'm like, you shouldn't be able to do that. Because it's like, if you knew you could do that, my question would be, there were so many battles in Avengers movies where your friends were getting the dog shit beat out of them. That Banner was like, bitch, I'm in a suit. Like, I can't turn into the Hulk. You don't think I could have taken some of that power? Use this suit with magic or some shit? Like, the fuck, man? You know what I'm saying? Picture if Endgame had like 90 different people with Thor's power on top of their power. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, narratively, it's kind of just like, well, did you just figure this out like right now? Or did you always
Remember, he was discovering this stuff in this movie, remember? What?
Trayvon, this is his fourth movie.
I'm just saying,
no discovering.
You heard what they said, and he was
no
like,
discovery.
you still don't know who you are.
No. Time out. That's different. That's different. Still not knowing where you are in life is different than not knowing what you're able to do in life. That's completely different, right? Like if you're not in a certain place,
I'm trying to give him a pass.
Don't give him a pass. Don't give him a pass.
Well, we know why you would give him a pass.
Writing. You want to give him a pass for that ass. That's why you want to give him a pass. But I'm like, no, don't give them any any life preservers, there were a lot of points narratively that just didn't make sense. We don't
Yeah,
have to harp over them, but
I
we're
don't-
not going to ignore them.
I don't care. It's not even narratively that I didn't like about it. I just didn't like it in general. Like the idea is silly to me. Like I didn't need to see it at all. I don't even care how they explain it away, or that if they didn't. I just didn't think it fit. I laughed and there were funny moments, and I enjoyed it as a scene. But I just thought it was ridiculous. So I was like, oh, that's so stupid.
I also, as I pass it to you, Mike, I also say that might lend to where a lot of people were saying the comedy just didn't work.
Yeah,
because
over the
in
top.
that scene where you're trying to express how serious it is of Jane,
Exactly.
slowly dying and Gore about to fulfill his wish, and I'm watching a 5-year-old use a teddy bear
Yeah.
shooting out lightning. It's
Funny
like,
as
well, those
fuck.
two things don't fit,
But
right? They just don't fit, But Mike, walk me through your thoughts on this movie.
Everything you just said is why I have a major problem with this movie. You have the opening of the movie with Gore and his daughter and her death, and then him basically killing that first god. And it's really, really heavy. And then you have the scene with Jane having cancer. All of these ideas are really, really powerful stuff. What does it mean to be a god? Do we need gods? Mortality? Those are all fantastic themes. And they're undercut every single time by the over-the-top humor, like the goats screaming in the background. They're funny in the Guardians of the Galaxy scene because that was a lighthearted moment. But
Right.
over and over the course of the movie, I zoned out by the time we got to the finale because Jane is there dying of cancer. But I'm out of it because, like you said, somebody was using a teddy bear to kill these shadow monsters. And every idea in this movie, I like for the most part, right? I like Gore the God Butcher. I like Mighty Thor. I like the comedic elements. They just don't fit together. It feels like they should be 2 or 3 different movies, And so that's just where I've been for like the last few days, just kind of grappling with the idea of, do I want Taika to come back? Because I loved Ragnarok, and I think Ragnarok just balanced the tone of everything a bit better than this one.
It did.
Yes.
It did.
I mean, even to your point, the whole premise of this movie was blending the light and the dark, narratively and visually, right? And I kind of felt like you leaned more into the light than you did the dark, so the balance was off, right? Yeah. Like there wasn't enough of the dark to carry the light. And it's like, well, that's how you get the teddy bear scene right before Jane's like, I'm dying. And it's like, well, now that doesn't hit as hard as it should because you were just trying to get me to laugh at these kids fucking up these shadow monsters, right? Yeah. So it's like, that's where it's kind of like, well, but that's why I was saying, Mike, as I pass it right back to you, that's why I said, to me, I am always of averages, right? And right now, I believe, even if I want to lend more to the people that maybe weren't that impressed with what Taika did with this movie, at least I think he's just still batting 50%, right? So I'm like, if you're still batting 50%, I want to at least give you one more movie to see if you can kind of lift that batting average up a bit, right? But to me, if you leave it here, I don't want this to be our lasting image of Taika in the MCU, right? That's why I was a big proponent of Rian Johnson coming back for Star Wars, just not with anything that exists, right? If you want to create something new, great, because I don't want The Last Jedi to be what I always look back at when I think of Rian Johnson, right? I want there to be a better narrative, Star Wars-wise, for that man to leave a legacy for. So for me, with Taika, even if I lean on the side of this was not your best foot forward, I don't want this to be how he ends it. I think he should. I think it deserves another shot because of how well received Ragnarok was. You know what I'm saying? Because none of this conversation necessarily existed for Ragnarok, but it exists now for this. So I'm like, well, we know he's capable of doing a Ragnarok. So let's see if he can end it on something that's just as good as Ragnarok, if not better, rather than leaving it with something that a lot of people feel as though wasn't his best work. But I'm kicking it back to you, Mike. I'm sorry.
No problem. So Ragnarok, I'm glad you mentioned that, though. He didn't write Ragnarok. He wrote this movie. So do we want, like you said, he's going 50%. He's technically 0 for 1 as a writer. Do we want to give him another shot to write the next Thor movie?
Oh, well, see, now that's a different story. No. No, I don't need him to write anything else. But as a people are talking about he shouldn't come back as a director. I don't feel that. I don't
Yeah.
feel as though his directing style was lacking. I feel as though the narrative was lacking. And that's where you can kind of go, well, maybe I don't need you to write anything else for Thor. But directing, again, visually, I loved everything about this movie. I really did. But narratively is where I could see people's problem.
I
Well,
think
then
that's-
maybe you shouldn't write.
I thought a lot of people don't know that he didn't write the last one. Or, a lot of people don't know those like that kind of details. So now
That's fair.
maybe people will know, and maybe they were like, okay, don't write it. You
Right.
can still direct, but don't write it.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
chill out.
I mean, that's how I feel about Zack Snyder half the time. It's like director, great. Writer,
Not so much.
you know. So
He's
it-
usually
it's-
not the writer, but I mean, sure. I mean,
yeah, I
I
mean,
mean, the man has written stuff, Trip.
Yeah, but
We're
he's
not going to
not-
play that game.
he's not the writer. Though.
He's a credited writer and decision maker on all of his shit.
Yeah, he
So,
is.
going
He
back to
is.
the tone though of Love and Thunder, I kind of sit back and look at the entire arc for Thor, right? Like him on this journey of self-discovery. And I think that's where it loses me. And I was telling some folks on Twitter that this movie probably works better if you take Thor out. I think if this was a Mighty Thor movie, it probably would have a better tone and a better flow, because honestly, Thor isn't adding much as far as emotional weight to this story. He's just kind of there because it's a Thor movie. And so do you guys think it would be better off if this was a Mighty Thor spinoff, or if they just basically tried to cut the comedic aspects out and just keep it like a more grounded drama instead of like a comedy?
Well, not out of the options you gave me, I just would have preferred if you did better by Mighty Thor in this movie, because you could have still did both, and they both would have worked. But if you knew you were going to do this to the character of Mighty Thor, A, why even have her? B, why not just why give us everything she did was off screen? Because when Valkyrie said that, I'm like, oh, how much fucking time passed? Like when she was just like, yeah, she's a pretty cool protector. I'm like, I'm sorry, what is she
Her
protecting?
and Gore both off
What
screen.
happened? But even if I could accept
He butchered
you
one
doing-
god.
even if I could
Yes,
accept you
one.
doing Gore the God Butcher off screen, the Jane thing was the biggest head scratcher, because I'm like, I didn't even know time had passed. I thought that was within the same time.
Yeah.
And when you get there and it's like, no, she's a pretty cool protector, and I'm like,
How long
I
has
just
she been
saw
forward?
her. I just saw the hammer like forge, right? So how much time has
We didn't
passed?
see
Days,
that.
weeks? Like, oh well, we didn't, but we know that's what it,
I
that's
know,
what it was
I know,
doing.
just being funny.
So that's what really bothered me more so than anything was narratively, you were kind of just progressing a story that we never got to see, and that's worse, Mike, than what you're saying is happening with Miss Marvel right now. There will be no payoff of that anywhere. That doesn't even carry into anything. That's just gone.
Oh, trust me, if we're comparing the two, Miss Marvel, 10 out of 10, perfection.
This was definitely a head scratcher.
I'm comparing the
completely.
two, Mike. Just to be clear.
You get it.
But I want to go back to you really quick, Mike, and then Tristan, I'm going to go back to you because I forgot to ask you something, Tristan. So I want to ask you, Mike, your thoughts on the God scene with us seeing Zeus and everybody, and then you walk me through the end credit scene of seeing Hercules.
Why didn't Gore show up in that scene to kill all those gods?
Especially when you
That'll be so
introduced
fun.
half of those gods essentially were made up.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's the harm in him coming in killing half of them, right? Who's
Or
gonna
like
miss
just
him?
have him kill Zeus and say, boom, stakes are raised. Zeus is he's the biggest god we know since Odin's gone
Right.
at this point. Kill him off. Then you have Hercules show up in the post-credit scene wanting revenge because Thor didn't stop Gore the God Butcher or whatever. You
No,
can still have
or-
that play out.
Or narratively, what Zeus said. Hercules blames Thor because he brought Gore there.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, that was really weird. I'm like, all right, we saw him kill no gods. We essentially don't know what gods are out there. As Joel always jokes, but he's very serious when he says this. The comic books just made up gods. in that story. So it's like when you get here and you see there is a god that's like a fucking dumpling. Why could Gore not come here and kill that? Like what are we doing here, really? What are we really doing here? Which, by the way, I want to throw this in, Mike. Little fun fact: everyone that was saying the actress that we saw in the photo was Bassett, she is actually uncredited in this movie completely. Yep. No name whatsoever.
That's crazy.
So I'm very curious.
Why put her there?
I was just about to say I'm very curious if Taika. I'm more curious if Taika was going more so to cover all cultural angles. So he put her there as like, oh, that's maybe like Wakanda's version of a god. But it's not really like that's not a narrative.
She's set dressing. That's what she is, just to make everything look right.
Just an
you're absolutely right.
It looked very much like
it did, but I think the reason she's uncredited is
we're better off.
There is a director who's directing Black Panther that it seems as though that would be a narrative that he either had to explain at some point, or it needs to be something that is at least talked about. And it does not seem like that's a narrative they're going to.
Or maybe they realized, you have Black Panther that talks about Bast, and we just had fucking Moon Knight that talked about Bastet, and they're like, well, I don't feel like explaining that shit in this movie, so just she's in it. Don't say who the fuck she is. Don't worry.
Don't say who she is. Right. Don't say anything. Because remember, Bastet is what she said she was. She was not credited. Nobody in Disney said that was true. Yeah. Nobody came out and said any of that.
I can't let that rock. Why would they sit right behind her? It's just like,
the point is she's
a problem. No,
I mean, she is front and center in like a high res screenshot of that.
But that's why I said if you're looking for an explanation, just look at it more so from a sense of they were very much looking for inclusion with those gods. Yeah, if you walked in there and they were like rocks and just white god faces, we would have a problem, right? So it's like you're putting in, and if it was, I guess you could have put her as any other god, but then that would have been a whole nother.
You could have just walked by her though, not put the picture out with her in it. Like,
well, to be fair, you keep saying it. You keep saying it like the picture was the three of them together. It was a little bit of her face in a photo that was focusing on Mighty Thor and Valkyrie. She wasn't front and center, just like
she was. What you mean?
It was like
not
half her face.
Is that
that's the difference?
You were featured to me when I saw it. I said, okay.
I'm gonna turn on this. You be seeing some shit. Well, y'all be seeing some shit. No, but I mean, again, who knows what Black Panther's doing? Maybe they bring it up there. Who knows?
No, don't have to. Don't worry about it.
Like, who knows?
No point, honestly.
Well, I'm saying if it's a physical god, that is very interesting to never bring that up ever again. Like, is it a physical god? Because then that kind of confuses you on how the narrative starts for the first Black Panther movie, where it's just very much like, oh, this panther came down.
Well, they are gods that can shapeshift and shit.
Yeah, I mean,
they are but
shapeshift in the first movie anyway.
They are, but it kind of feels like if you could have approached yourself to humans, wouldn't it have been as a human?
Not if you're trying to intimidate these motherfuckers.
Okay, all right. There's no argument there. I have no argument to that.
Yeah, the giant talking cat is way more believable if you're trying to convince me otherwise.
No argument there. No argument there. Tristan, I want to ask you this because I didn't get a chance to, and I'm not sure. I don't remember if you got to speak on it, but did you speak on the Hercules scene?
No. The only thing I mentioned earlier is that I wasn't familiar with that actor. So
the actor. Yeah. How did you feel about that scene?
I liked it. I felt like it was very foreboding, and I'm interested in seeing. I'm interested in that being a part of the next movie, like Hercules hunting down Thor, and plus Hercules is a huge part of the Marvel universe. So I like that's his introduction. Isn't that true to his comic book introduction? Yeah. He was hunting down Thor. So.
Yeah.
Well, they very much have the same friendship that Ben Grimm and Hulk have, to where it's like, I'm gonna fuck you up on sight, but it's friendly. Like it's more so who's stronger than who.
They have a
more so than anything else.
Deep rivalry.
Right.
Okay, so more so frenemies.
Yeah, 100%. Okay. Yeah.
So I'm interested in seeing them get to that point, but I'm also interested in seeing Thor being integrated more into the MCU because I'm guessing once he's there, then we'll see more of the Greek pantheon, the Greek monsters, all that stuff in the modern MCU. So I'm excited.
Yeah, 100%. And look, we got a bit of how Thor viewed their relationship because remember, Thor was speaking as if he was a massive fan of Hercules, right? Remember when he was telling them like, Right.
Zeus,
But
yeah.
remember when he was telling the group, like, "Oh my God, there's so many gods there. There's Hercules, there's Zeus." Like he was so excited. So it's gonna be really confusing when Zeus is Hercules is trying to kill him, and he's just like, "Why are you? Oh, I killed your dad. I remember that."
He
I
would
really
respond the
wanted
same way
more.
he did to Hulk in the stadium. My friend from work.
Yeah,
He'll
that's
respond the same
exactly how it's
way,
gonna view it. Yeah,
and the
he was
Hercules
just
will
like-
punch him in the face.
Yeah, he's like, "You're trying to kill me? What? Oh, your dad. I forgot. I completely forgot. Sorry. Okay.
And they'll say it just like that too. To
Yeah.
be funny.
Yep, I forgot.
Just say it
You're
just
right.
like that.
You're right. You're
What
right.
I really wanted, what I really wanted more of, and Tia will appreciate this because we're American Gods fans. I wanted more of the gods, like just seeing their personality and seeing Thor interact with them. Like,
Mhm.
That
I
would
mean, obviously there wasn't enough time for that. What did you guys think of the pacing? Because it moved really quickly, but I felt like it could have
Fast.
taken some time to. It could. There were some extra scenes that could have been put here and there to explain stuff a little more.
I think the opening of when Jane was dealing with the cancer, I think I could have sat with a little bit more, right? Like, really, how has this been really affecting her? Because you see the treatments, but you're like, okay, well, that's to be expected. But like mentally, how has this been affecting her? And I kind of felt like they sped through that to kind of get you right to, well, now she's going to head to Asgard and become Mighty Thor. And then we're not going to show you anything, right? And it's like, well, if you're going to rush us to nothing, just let me sit with it a little bit more, right? Like, let me sit with this character kind of. Again, we also forget there's a lot of catching up we should have been able to do with Jane,
Mhm.
right? You know, not even counting the MCU timeline because she blipped. We're talking about just from Ragnarok. I'm sorry, from Dark World to Ragnarok, and then from Ragnarok to Love and Thunder. It's a lot of time to kind of make up for that. It would have just been really interesting. Like I was even saying, Tristan, I would have loved it if you spent more time with Jane and Darcy, to where Darcy's telling her about Westview. Where it's just like the craziest fucking shit happened, Jane. And it's like, you know what I'm saying? To kind of see those dominoes fall a little bit.
I think at that point it's been 2 years removed. Like, at that
But
point.
that's my problem with that is that so much time just progresses off screen that you're kind of just like, well, now you're in this vacuum of like, well, now you're just making up kind of where you're at now, and then just very fastly progressing past it. And it's like, I kind of want to sit with it a little bit, like, you know, let me enjoy it a little bit.
Right, because how long did Thor said it had been since they'd broken up? He said it was like
8 years.
8 years, yeah,
8
almost a
years.
decade. I'm like, dang, yeah. I had that reaction, like, wow. So yeah, there is a lot of.
They were already broken up in Age of Ultron, right? Or no?
Yeah. No.
They were still together.
No, time out. No. Technically, they were, because he was kind of embellishing in a way that made it sound
It was
like.
starting,
But they didn't explicitly state it. So
No,
they were still
they didn't
together.
explicitly say it until Ragnarok. Right? It was off screen. But he kind of sounded like he didn't want Stark to think that he was the only one without a significant other. Like he was the uncool hero. So he was like, yeah, and Jane's doing this, and Jane's doing that, and we're happy. And Tony's just like, so I don't care. But yeah, on screen we got it in Ragnarok. But then again, remember that blip was 5 years.
Hey, that explains. It really does take place in 2025 then. If it has been 8 years, they broke up around Ragnarok, which is like 2017.
Yep.
It is 2025.
Yep.
That's why it's 5 years to her.
Right. Because she's like, well, I lost 5 years. So
when
I got back.
She got
part of
blipped,
that. Yeah. She's like, that's
See, I
part
didn't
of
hear
that.
that line. I've seen it twice. I didn't even hear her say that.
She said, like, what has it been? 3 years? And he says 8. So
Right.
Yeah.
She missed 5 of those years.
Right.
She's like,
that makes sense.
That
makes sense. Okay, that makes so much more sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I didn't do the math then, and I'm glad we talked about it.
Right? See, this is why these breakdowns are important for us to do. It's very cathartic. But Jayla, I'll go to you next, Jayla. What were your thoughts on this movie?
Oh boy. I was disappointed. I have quite a few issues with this round. Let me first say that I did enjoy it. I had a good time, and I don't want anyone to think that I'm just like gonna trash the movie or trash Taika. I will say that it is very clear that we didn't have the same writer this time. It kind of felt like the writer or Taika were trying to emulate what we got in Ragnarok and missing a big chunk of what made Ragnarok work so well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that it's too funny. I just think that it chooses funny over letting an emotional beat happen too many times, and it's the wrong time if you're introducing Mighty Thor as well as Gore, it's the wrong time to start choosing to shorten your movies. It's the wrong movie for that. You have a lot to get to, and nothing ever really gets its time to shine. Eternity doesn't get its time to shine. That's a huge reveal to bring up. Gore does not get enough time. Christian Bale was done a disservice, in my opinion. We don't even really get to see Gore talk to Thor, which would have been amazing. And I was expecting it because Thor was one of those arrogant gods. That was his big deal in the first one, and a big deal of his whole arc. And we didn't have that moment, and we didn't have a moment of this, like, just, being human. It felt like to me that they kind of regressed Thor's character a bit from what we've seen his growth through Ragnarok and losing Asgard, and then going through what happened in Infinity War and Endgame. He changed a lot, and he has a bit of humbleness to him, and he has a bit of humanity to him, and he's not just dumb. He's a smart guy, and we kind of lost that in this one. I was pretty bummed about that.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you're saying. It definitely, and again, I think, but that goes back, Jayla, to what you're saying to Mike's point, or was it Tristan's point? Of you get the first two movies that have this Thor,
Tristan,
and then you get to Tristan said okay, and then you get to Taika's movie, and it kind of gives you that more playful, that kind of jock Thor, right? So he's super strong, and he has the hammer and the god powers, but he was never given intelligence, and it's like, well, that should never be a narrative for Thor because he's very smart, right? Like that should never be a narrative that you play on of like, well, he's a little dumb. Like Thor should never be dumb. Like, and I'm not saying that Taika made him dumb, but you shouldn't play it down to where he's not supposed to be taken serious, right? If there's any character in the MCU that should be the opposite, it should be Thor, that you're taking the most serious. I'm a god. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it should be very upsetting. Like, you're not taking me serious. I'm a god.
Right.
Like, it's okay if you don't want to take the shiny guy in the suit seriously or the Star Spangled Banner Man seriously. I am a literal god. You know what I'm saying? I should never be a joke. Go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to jump in right quick and add to what Jayla was saying about him not having a conversation with Gore, right? We never established that Gore is wrong because every god we've met in this movie is awful.
Yeah.
And they deserve to die, essentially. So why should we believe...
Aside from Thor.
To be fair,
aside from Thor, that's one out of
in a way,
right?
Well, to be fair, in the comics, they didn't really do that either. So what Gore's downfall is when his son reappeared, and kind of was. I'm sorry, his wife had kind of come back as like a vision in death, and was kind of alluding to he was becoming the very thing that he swore to destroy. Right, so it was never us seeing the gods in any other light, but in the actual light that they are. But Gore's downfall was just becoming a god. He was becoming so powerful, he was becoming a god. Right, so at that point, it was just like, well, now you're the thing you were seeking to destroy. But I'm sorry, go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
No, I just want to push back on that a little bit because I feel like in the comic book storyline, seeing those three different versions of Thor, you see him grow and change and evolve.
Oh, you're talking about Thor. Okay, I'm sorry.
No,
I apologize. I'm sorry.
No, but you had it right. But I'm just saying the point of that story was seeing that, yes, the gods are flawed, but they can also grow and change just like all of us. And
exactly.
The movie never had that moment. We never saw gods change. We saw that essentially in the first Thor movie. But that has nothing to do, again, with the story that they're telling. Well, and that's the problem where you probably need him to interact with Thor more or the other gods,
let me ask you
something
this.
like that.
Did you not feel as though this movie showed you Thor change?
Not really.
No,
okay.
Not for me.
So, no. That's no problem. Only reason I asked that is, so now, Jayla, I can finally say, because now we finally have a movie for me to use this for. That is how me and Mike felt about Doctor Strange, is how you now feel about Thor. There was no true progression of the individual. So now you see that I see it the other side for Thor as you saw it for Steven. That I did not see the narrative of the heart of Steven kind of just change, because I never really thought any of his mindset changed necessarily. Like, he just kind of understood there were things I just can't do. All right, fuck it, right? But he didn't change as a person. So are you saying that's how you saw Thor? Like there wasn't like a true change of Thor. He just understood there were things that just were outside of his control.
No, that's not what I'm necessarily saying here. I'm
Okay.
saying that we regressed. They
Oh,
took
wow.
away parts of what we got. We regressed. Like, you know, from Thor going through depression, and I remember specifically, I remember his talk with Rocket when he was saying that what else do I have to lose? I've been alive for eons, and going through all this stuff that he felt. I mean, we were talking about just a couple months ago. We were talking about who's dealt with the most grief and hurt in the MCU, and Thor's name kept popping up,
It's still
and
Thor.
and we just right. And my issue with that is that we don't see any depth to him anymore. Not any depth that we already saw previously. And that was a big, big thing with me, that this movie just feels like that this feels kind of like a nothing sandwich. And I had a good time with it. I liked what they presented, but there was nothing to it that made me feel like it was worthy of having gore. It was worthy of introducing the mighty Thor, because they just kind of use them as throwaways. We don't ever get to establish Gore as a proper threat. We get the opening, he steals some kids, and then they fight a couple of times. We don't get to see him do his thing. We don't get, yeah. Christian Bale doesn't get to have the stage to be like, this is Gore. This is Gore the God Butcher. This is serious. This is a serious thing that's going on. And it makes no sense to me that we introduce Zeus and we don't get to see that fight happen. It makes it just like, I don't understand why. It just kind of feels like, you know, Taika kind of stopped caring about it halfway through. In a way, I'm not saying he did, but it feels like he didn't put a lot of extra thought into these ideas that he brought to the table to flesh them out.
I think I don't disagree with you at all, and it kind of bothered me when Gore took the children, coming from someone who had just lost a child. I kind of feel like the same effect would have been there if you stole Valkyrie. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, I thought that was really weird.
Even more so because we know
Why would
Valkyrie.
Right.
Why would you scare kids and all
Yeah,
that?
that
when
was
you
very
just lost the
confusing. You just
kids?
lost your kid, and that's the whole thing that drove you to where you are now. So I'm like, but anyway, looking past that, I think for me, Thor's progression was shown, because I don't think Thor at the beginning of this movie could have been a father to love, right? So it was the progression of him learning how to accept other forms of love outside of just, you know, having a girlfriend or a wife or anything like that. That love comes in all other shapes and forms, as Peter Quill was telling. Like, when you feel that loneliness, look to the ones you love, right? And he was looking to the Guardians. There was no Gamora. So he was saying, I had to get past not having Gamora, even though technically he does. He just hasn't found her. He was saying, I had to get past that. And the only way I was able to do that was having them. So now Thor is in a position to where he can kind of accept losing Jane because he has love, right? You know, physically and kind of emotionally. So to me, I'm like, they did show that progression of Thor, to where at the beginning of that movie, he was in no condition to be a quote unquote father. And I think you kind of slowly progressed him to where by the end of the movie, he was accepting enough to become that father.
You still drag your daughter into battles. So
your daughter's a god, Trayvon. What
I'm just, it's still a child.
like, what? My daughter was a
Child
god.
and
Hell
baby,
yeah.
man.
He almost shot his head off.
Yeah, I'm like, what are we talking about? She's a literal god. Yeah, that shit. Did you not see Thor in that training montage at the beginning? As a child, he was into
funny.
some
Yes.
shit.
He went
Yeah,
was on
I'm
that
like, come on
thing.
now.
to God bod.
Right, yes.
I'll wrap it up, so because I don't want to hold you guys up all night.
No, go ahead, Jayla. Go ahead.
But no, like I'll use Doctor Strange as, because you brought up Doctor Strange. I'll use it as an example. The difference between this and Doctor Strange for me, which I will admit Doctor Strange does have his issues, is like Doctor Strange had to confront face to face himself and what happens when he lets the worst parts of himself kind of take over, when he doesn't keep himself in check, whether it's with the Illuminati or the incursion site that was destroyed. He had to face he had to face those realities up front and fight them essentially. And with Love and Thunder, my biggest issues is we don't have those conversations. We don't have those actual moments they sit down and they reflect and they think about something. Because we have Thor going over and upset about Mjolnir. You have maybe like a few throwaway sentences, but they're backed up with jokes. They're punchlines.
Well,
Where is the moments that like are given the gravity that they deserve to get is what I'm missing from it.
well, the gravity as a whole in the movie, I won't argue. But if you're talking about Thor specific, I would argue this movie didn't necessarily need him to do that because he just went through it in Ragnarok. Remember, the whole thing of facing himself was when he was sitting with Odin, and Odin was telling him, hey, get your shit together. My son is not a god of hammers. He's a fucking god of thunder, right? That was him facing himself and gaining the confidence that he was being stripped of, right? And then he faces it again in Infinity War and Endgame. He was constantly facing the mistakes of himself, right?
Right.
So by the time you get to Love and Thunder, to do it again kind of seems like now you're just kind of beating a down dog, right? Like at some point, you got to slowly move past that because you've beaten them over the head in 3 straight movies.
Well, I'm not saying that I was using the Doctor Strange as an example, but I'm talking about your point to how he wasn't ready to be a father and he was by the end of it. Where were the situations that made him reflect on what he was doing wrong, or where was the moments that made him kind of have a wake-up call? Because I really didn't.
I think if my opinion, it was when they came back to Earth and Jane looked like she was dying, and him seeing her in that bed and it really hitting him that she is dying, right? It's now not a conversation anymore. I'm seeing it. Because remember, the first time he sees Jane, she's Mighty Thor.
Mm-hmm.
You're not seeing the progression of the cancer really slowly killing her. That was the moment where he's seeing it. And that was where things kind of brought things home to him, to where he kind of faced it in the same way he kind of faced his father's death, right? When he got that chance to talk to Odin again is where that acceptance of losing his father really came from.
Right.
And that was where he was able to really sit and kind of just reflect for a second, albeit, but reflect on this shit's real, right? Because I think that's always a thing of Thor, of like, it's not real. I'm the god of thunder. I can do this. I can kill Thanos, right? And then it's being met with the consequences of maybe being too arrogant, right? Maybe not taking things serious enough. And I think that moment was seeing her in the bed, and that's when what Peter Quill started to say really was kind of sinking in, to where that's why I'm saying mentally he was on a journey at that point to becoming the man he needed to be for love by the end of that movie. So that to me is where I think the moment was. But if that didn't hit for everybody else the same way, I completely get it. But for me, I thought that was his moment,
right?
Where he was like, this is the moment that it changes.
And I don't knock that at all. I just think that it's kind of insane to me that you have such a heavy story. There's a cancer patient who's given the opportunity to be a superhero, to not feel any of it, to just be a superhero and be a god, and they just don't get that. They don't get to have those moments, those talks and things of that nature. I'm kind of repeating myself now, but that's pretty much my issue with it.
You're good.
But I wanted to see more of that. It feels like a movie that was gutted, and they left all the jokes, and they left the things that made it fleshed out, that gave the movie some meat to chew on the cutting room floor, and just left the jokes and kind of called it a day. And I wanted to see more. I'm pretty bummed out about it. I hope that we get to see another movie that has some help on the writing side and can bring forward the human side that Thor has to face and be reminded of constantly, because he's a god. He lives on way past all these people and all these things, so he has to be reminded of these tiny things and of these tiny moments that come with morality.
Yeah, because I definitely feel as though, I will say the one thing that I did think was consistent as I pass it to you, Joel, is everything this movie is exactly what he pitched to us on at Hall H, right? Everything he pitched on Hall H is exactly what he gave us. Now, the argument of, did he deliver it well? not here to argue that. We clearly know mistakes were made. But he definitely said on that stage, this is a story that's just about love, right? Now, albeit my argument would be, well, maybe you didn't need to use gore. Maybe you didn't need to do this. Maybe you didn't need to do that. Right. But he did say on Hall H, my story is just about love. And this story was, that's what it was, right? Now, the argument could be, did we need that at this point? Did we want that at this point? Did we need gore? You could have did gore better. I'm just saying he was very consistent, right? Like, he didn't pitch us one movie and gave us something else. He said, hey, my story is about love. And that was not even underlined. That was the whole premise of this movie, was Thor finding love, and he found it, right? But Joel, what were your thoughts on this movie? I know you had a lot of issues, but overall you were able to kind of just shine past them. And really, really love what you saw.
I had a fun time with it. Like I said, I thought it was flawed but fun. That was probably the best way for me to describe it. I had issues, but I didn't let it bother me as much as other people. So for me, when I say the movie was, I'm not gonna say it was too funny, because that just doesn't make sense. But like what Jay was saying, it just didn't give the serious moments time to breathe. So there was just too many jokes on top of jokes on top of jokes, where it was too much all at once. And maybe that's because it was only under 2 hours or whatever it was, and they didn't give it enough time to breathe.
159.
Right, which, I mean, that's not normal. But
I read that was a mandate too. I don't know if that's true.
Maybe it was, but they still should have, given them enough time to breathe. Like, the jokes didn't need to be right on top of each other most of the time. And I didn't mind it, because it was still really funny, probably one of the funniest movies we've seen from the MCU yet. And look, I fucking love the goats. A lot of goat talk here. They were my favorite part of the damn movie. I love those damn movies. I love the YouTube thing for the goats. I love these goats. They're fucking hysterical. But yes, I also had issues with the way that it was paced in regards to the jokes and the serious parts. I think gore, too much of that of the butchering took place off screen. I wanted to see more of him kicking ass. Because every time he was on screen, I loved him. I thought he was awesome. He was menacing. I loved the use of his powers. Yeah, I just thought he was definitely intimidating. We just didn't get a lot of them, unfortunately, in my opinion. And on the other side, with Jane, we didn't see her really become. Even though, and I believe that is a cut scene too, because I know they were filming that and they were showing her transform. They completely cut that off. They just show her getting there and then kind of like starting up, and then we see her, bam, whatever. And look, it is what it is. She looked cool. So her use of Mjolnir was really cool too. But it is what it is, because it was supposed to be a love story between Thor and Jane. They haven't seen each other in forever. It's like reigniting again. They're fighting together, which is something he's never done with her before. So this is very new. And he's also reminiscing in a woman that he loved, didn't want to lose. He ended up losing her, and ended up falling in love with her again. And only for him to lose her again. You know what I mean? Now, in the beginning of this movie, it's him trying to find himself. Because the last time we saw Thor, the last couple, he's kind of going through he went through a lot of shit. The guy was depressed. He gained all this weight. Last time we saw him, he was fat, right? So you have Korg explaining his progression to finding himself and finding peace with himself. I love that. That was all cool. His interaction with the Guardians were hysterical. I love their interaction. I thought that was really cool. We got to see whatever we saw the Guardians. That was fulfilling for me. Once they went away, and of course the whole gore thing, because it was the Guardians that got the message, right? And then they kind of transferred over. We got to see Sif in the really cool, accurate costume. I really thought that was dope too.
Would have liked to have sat with that a little bit more.
I would too. I really wish we got to see more Sif, but we know she lost an arm. You brought up a possibility for the future that I really liked. We can maybe that happens.
Her arm being in Valhalla is one of the best jokes in the movie.
The jokes hit. When the jokes hit, they hit really good. It is a funny movie, and look, Chris Hemsworth is really good at his job. I'm not at
masterful.
He really is
masterful.
And to me, it was.
Go ahead, Jayla.
I'm so sorry. I
No, go ahead.
forgot
Mhm.
I do have one joke that was great and made me laugh, and it made the whole movie better for me. At the end, Korg married a dude named Dwayne the Rock.
I didn't catch
With the
that.
beard, yeah.
God,
Yeah.
I love that joke
I
so
love
much.
that
I
too.
wish we had more of those. Okay,
I
that was it.
didn't
Continue.
catch that. I
Yeah.
feel like an
It's
idiot
so
now.
funny. It's so sly. They just stuck that right in the end.
And there were people that were upset with what Taika did.
With them being men on men.
Yes, but I
Wah.
think what people were failing to realize
I didn't
is
catch that. I feel
they
so
didn't necessarily
Even the
make
dads.
Korg. No, they didn't necessarily make Korg gay. I think where people lost the explanation is that race is only fucking men.
I'm about to say that probably
It's like
there's
they're
no
only
women.
men. There's
They're
no
only
women.
men.
They're only men. So to them, there is no gay or straight. They only know that's
Yeah.
it. That's all I
They
got.
have
like,
mates.
yeah, he's like that's all I got. I got
But
Terry over there.
But it
That's
is
it. That's all
gay.
I
But
got.
it is gay.
No,
And
no, no,
y'all,
Yeah, I
no,
was
no,
gonna say it
no,
is.
no, no,
and
no,
y'all will
time out.
accept
No, no.
it. Take
Time
it.
out.
That's
I'm
right.
not trying to clean it up. I'm not trying to clean it up for anybody. I'm just saying people are looking at it as if he's trying to force a narrative. He's not forcing a narrative. Korg said it. It's only dudes.
And if he is,
No, I'm not saying there's a problem
it.
if he is. I'm not saying that.
I'm just playing.
Yeah, no,
But-
no,
I'm not
with
talking
you.
to you. I'm talking to the people. I'm
Yeah,
like,
no,
if it is,
they need to freaking deal with it. But I'm saying
Exactly.
Korg did.
If he
Korg
starts
did say
forcing
in the
Dwayne
movie
to wear
that
wigs
it's
and
all-
look like a woman, then we have an issue. Because then that would
Yes, right.
do
right.
Right. That's it. That's all. I just wish they had more of those like dry, subtle humor moments. That's all I wanted to say. Okay, go ahead, Joel.
No, but I didn't even catch it. I wish I definitely might have to check it out again. Just I missed a couple of things.
We do got to go again, Joel.
I do want to. It's one of those movies though, man. Like it wasn't perfect. Like I did not like the scene with the kids getting the powers and shit. Like it was funny. I laughed throughout the whole scene, but I thought it was stupid. I did love like when Gore. Then he talked Gore into it basically. When Jane was dying, he's like, "Whatever." That was the most serious part of the movie. Like right there, that ending scene.
Well, Gore made him promise, like, you promise you'll take care of her. And he's
care
like,
of
I
her.
got it.
I was not expecting that either at all. That was gonna happen.
Wasn't.
Like at all. That
I had people asking me, like, "Oh, is this happening in the comics?" No, his son is super dead in the comics. Like,
Damn, super dead.
super dead. Yes,
Yeah.
super dead. Like he came back as Casper by the end of that comic. Like he was super dead. There was no eternity or anything like that. He was massively dead. But yeah, they changed a lot. There was no God Bomb, which I was a little disappointed about. I'm like, I would like to see the God Bomb.
You said it out
I just wanted to see the God of Bombs. Come on, that's so ridiculous.
Come on, man. Come on.
There's a lot of ridiculousness in the movie.
We could have used a sprinkle more of accuracy of
I was fine with the whole Zeus using a Greek accent, even though, like, we were sitting there like, it sounds Italian. I'm not really sure what he's doing, but I didn't mind it at all. You know, I'm like, it's a choice. He made it, and I didn't mind it at all. You know, Zeus. I like the Thunderbolt. It looked weird as fuck. I loved it. I loved the way his use of it. I really like. Someone mentioned they wish Thor and Zeus actually fought. I agree. That would have been a lot cooler.
Just in his damn skirt.
That's what they wore, man.
That was just fun.
Should be happy with that.
No, Trayvon's just not happy that the proper person wore the skirt. That's the issue.
Joe is bringing up that there was a retcon about his mom, even though he mentions his dad's only. And so I don't know. I don't remember that part of Ragnarok, but I mean, that could be a thing.
Whatever happened to Korg's revolution that he was trying to start up? That just
It worked.
fizzled out?
It worked. No, it worked.
It got up.
It worked.
Yeah.
His revolution was Thor. It worked. They all escaped. Like that was.
But wasn't he the only one to travel with them though?
No, remember the whole. A lot of those people traveled in that group to go to Asgard with Loki on that ship.
Yeah, they were lucky.
Yeah.
I remember
Okay,
that.
so they
I just
just
watched it
weren't
recently. I just
species.
recently watched that.
It-
so
now, time out. Where I will say what you're saying comes into frame, Mike, is it's just unfortunately by the time Thanos gets a hold of that ship, all those characters that came with Korg and Meek probably are the ones that died with half the rest of Asgard.
Dang.
So they probably all died off screen, and it's just like,
Depressing
they're
thought.
gone. Like they're
is
gone. They're
dark
gone.
humor.
They're dead.
yeah.
Well, I mean, that's what we're made to believe because they definitely left with Korg and Meek in Loki. They got on that ship. That ship was big as shit. So I'm like, I find it hard to believe that everyone stayed.
I love that we found out Meek is a girl now, because we didn't know that at first.
Yeah, that is
We're laying eggs in the fucking pig, and now we find out. I guess it was a girl wearing a skirt and a suit. You know? That was funny, and
that
of
was
course, the scene stealer for me was Hercules, because that's one of my favorite characters, and Brett Goldstein playing him, I was not. What? I love that character. I don't know if anybody watches Ted Lasso, but you fucking should, because it's a great show. And he's awesome in it, because Jesus Christ. And him being, and I heard that was Kevin Feige's choice. Like, he wanted Brett for that role. So I'm like, good on him. Good on him. I'm excited to see what they do with him going forward. Always loved Hercules. And we were talking about love earlier, and how basically at the end of the movie, he basically gives her Stormbreaker, and he gets Mjolnir back. Even that was another love thing going on between Mjolnir and Stormbreaker. That was hysterical too. Stupid, but fucking hysterical.
That was funny.
And he got Mjolnir back. I do love that he's using Mjolnir again, and I think it leaves it open to us getting Better Ray Bill. I do believe that.
I was telling Mike Sunday, I really sat on this, and now I have no interest of that. I kind of don't want to see her without it. Like, I don't want to see her without that.
I don't think she needs it. That's why I think so.
That's why I don't want to see her without it. It's kind of overkill, and I like it because again, what they're about to face going
I'm not
forward.
Overkill person, you know that.
No, but for me, what they're about to face going forward, I have no problem with that. Like, they're not fighting bank robbers, so I'm like, they might be fighting other gods. I'm fine if she.
I just think it does leave it open for the possibility. That's all.
We'll see. If she still has it in the next time we see her, I don't ever want her to lose it. If she doesn't have it, because she's saying I don't need it, cool. No problem. Then Beta Ray can pick it up. But if she's still using it...
I think it's something she gives to him. I think would be cool.
She gives to Beta Ray Bill?
Why not?
I definitely have to see how they progress these powers that she has before I get mentally to that point.
Well, she wasn't using lightning with it either. It's literally just the axe.
No, that's what I'm saying. That to me, it's the visual of her using it, right? Because it's like
I'm not saying we never see her use it. I want to see her use it. It'd be fun, but I think it's something maybe she does pass down to a new character like Better Ray Bill. You know, like eventually, I think they're gonna show him. That's why I think that makes sense. And if Thor's not using it anymore, why not?
I would kind of like it if they just build him what I thought they should have just gave Jane, which is Thunderstrike's weapon. Just do that. That's what the cartoon did. That's what they gave to Jane. She didn't have Mjolnir.
I know that, but
yeah. So I'm like, the fact that you fucked up, gave Thor Stormbreaker, only to give him back Mjolnir.
They can fix it now. So like,
well, why can't that weapon be used? Utilize that weapon. That's a cool weapon.
But no one. Again, you're creating a new weapon when you already have Stormbreaker. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Okay. All right. That's fair. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No arguments there. But no, I mean, you were saying the thing that stole the show for you was definitely Hercules. For me,
yeah.
It was definitely seeing how badass they're planning to make love. That was where I was just like, okay, all right.
I loved that too.
I'm like, for me was just
my
like,
bias for Hercules. I mean, that's one I just.
I looked right over at Joel and was like, yep, this is it. You ready? Yeah.
My guys, I was like, oh shit. Oh shit.
Yeah, Joel totally reacted for that the same way I reacted when Joel was just like, by the way, Shadow is at the end of Sonic. And I was just like, what the fuck? What? Like, yes, my life is complete. Like, I've been waiting forever for that. Yes. And he went supersonic when Trayvon told me that. And he went supersonic. He went supersonic? But Trayvon, I pass it to you. We've been waiting. We know ass jokes are coming, so we've prepared ourselves.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts
on
Thor: Love and Thunder?
I don't know. I feel like y'all said everything. I don't know.
I mean, we said nothing about the ass shots.
I have a
left
list.
that solely for you.
I have a list of things. So, it's more like statements about this movie.
Okay.
I guess a lot of stuff you guys already said, but I'm gonna reiterate. Gore killing one guy, awful. Let me see. If we didn't see WandaVision, we had no idea what Darcy has seen or anything. It's just like she's just so randomly there. Like, hey, I'm like, oh, we know you've been through so much, but nothing happened.
Seemed to have phased her.
It's just like
it was 2 years removed.
Hey, but
he probably told 10 years ago when it happened.
I guess I don't know, man. It's like we see them again, but we don't get anything from it. It's like, oh hey, when did you get it? 6 months ago.
Yeah, they should not progress
It's just
time
very
as
much-
fluently as they do. I agree. Yeah, I agree. Time
You're
should not
testing-
flow that fast.
You're testing your blood? No, oh, I'm dying. Okay. Oh, I'm all options. Go to Asgard.
Hey, wait, hold on. Time out really quickly before you go further.
What
Did
about-
they ever say what caused her cancer?
No,
No.
just said she got it 6 months ago, and that's it. And I was like, Ether, bring it up. Something. Say the Ether. Say it was that. Something that's what gave it to you. Something.
Oh,
6
Taika,
months, stage
put
4.
the pin down.
Yeah, 6 months, just stage 4. I was
Put
like,
the
how
pin
about
down, Taika. God
like,
damn.
It
it's
happens
just
quick, man.
she went to Asgard. We saw the little rumblings in the sky, and next thing you know, cut. I'm like, come on! I was like, wait a minute, let us see it.
Which is crazy because remember they shot a scene where it shows her lifting up in the air and like convulsing, becoming Mighty Thor, and they cut it. So it's like, well, okay, all right, that's a decision. I
It's
guess.
just so many things that were just cut. I don't know. Valkyrie and her relationship though was so fun to me.
That
I
was.
was just like the part. I don't know. I got so geeked in that part. They were when they like she took her like sword or whatever and she took the hammer. They clicked it. I don't know what that was about that, but I just really liked that a lot. Oh, that's so cute.
I definitely enjoyed hearing Mary J. Blige in a Thor
Yes,
movie.
I enjoyed it. Right? Yeah, that speaker. I
fucking
love
that. I
that.
was just like, hell yes, Valkyrie.
Grenade.
Okay,
I was worried they
Yes.
would do it too long. When she first clicked it on, I said, "Oh God, please don't do this too long."
it did go a
Please.
little bit too
I was
long,
like-
but
I was
hey,
okay.
if anything's gonna go long, that Mary J. Blige song can play for as long as it wants. That's a fucking banger.
But you know what though? I was sitting there thinking, does Jane Foster know who Mary J. Blige is?
Maybe not, because she kind of looked at it. She kind of looked at it
I was
like, all
The
right.
guy like, I'm just gonna sway with you.
yeah, exactly.
yeah, yeah.
She definitely was one of those people that like, I just want to seem cool, so it's like,
Yeah,
okay,
just kinda
all
went
right,
with it.
all right, yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
points
no,
to Valkyrie. Points to Valkyrie for knowing who she is. She's
Hell
not even
yes.
from Earth. She's not even from Earth.
Yeah,
But she
hell
knows.
yeah.
Well, she's
Hell
been
yeah.
here now long enough, right? How long have they been on Earth at this point?
Well, shit, if you're telling me 2 years past since Darcy, 4 years. 3-4 years.
That Valkyrie and them.
I've been on Earth, yeah.
They've
At
been
least
on
3
the
years.
Earth since
The
the
Valkyrie
snap,
the
too.
Valkyrie snap,
remember?
yeah.
Was it
Yeah.
5
Val-
years already.
Valkyrie disappeared in the snap.
It was
You don't
during the
count
snap, right? So let's say at earliest it was 2018, 19, or whatever.
that. Well, remember, Valkyrie disappeared during the snap.
Did she?
So we can say
Yeah.
4
I
years.
don't
We
think
can say
she
4
did.
years.
She 100%.
Even if not,
did.
without the snap, 4 years. I guess you could say.
She
Isn't she at the
100% did.
beginning of Endgame?
No.
When they go visit Thor?
No. Oh, shit.
She was.
No. Was she?
I believe she was.
Yes.
She
was?
she met them.
That's why she's king of Asgard, because she's the one leading those people.
Yeah,
she
he
was there.
left her as king of Asgard.
Why the
was
fuck
there.
didn't she come help them when they time traveled? I thought she disappeared. What
Yeah,
the fuck?
you're right, Joe.
Like-
Her mom did die of cancer, and that's from the
They
comic.
did
too.
show that. They did show that.
That's accurate.
But it's just so, I don't know.
Yeah, but
It,
again,
is, it might be genetic, and that's what they alluded to in the comic.
right. But
Okay.
again, the problem with that is we're having to fill in that blank. That's a problem. That should have been just said, or you know what I'm saying, or just focused on a little bit more, or the fact that we had the Hulk tell us in a full fucking movie that it emits a high level of gamma radiation, right? And that thing lived inside of her. It's not
Yeah.
that hard for them to just go, that ether trickled
Yeah.
down, gave her cancer, and it progressed really quickly.
Wow,
It doesn't
how
take
did the comic
fucking-
explain it?
I don't remember. I
Well,
don't
then it doesn't
remember.
matter.
Not gonna lie. No, I'm not gonna lie. No, I'm saying the last time we saw her, no issues, and the last time we saw her, she had the radiation in her. Now you're talking about all this time passed, and now it just manifests. It would kind of be nice to know how it manifested. That's all I'm saying.
I also want to know how Cap put it back
know.
as well.
Say it again, Trevon.
How Cap put it back when he went. I want to ask you like to know.
Open her stomach right up.
Yeah.
She woke up with stitches. Like, what the fuck did y'all do? It's like, we didn't do that. Like,
That
I
would be
know.
a great one shot of just seeing
would.
Chris Evans travel
Go
throughout the
back and put
multiverse of
everything in.
time. Yeah, because he's gonna have to sneak in Asgard, not
Yeah.
be seen, and just
Yes.
stab her again.
Oh, wait, that's what I meant to bring up to you guys. I brought it up to Joel, and he didn't even catch it. Are we not going to talk about the greatest character in this movie? Fucking Daryl's back.
I forgot. I can't.
Yes,
Yeah.
Daryl's back. That's the greatest character in this whole movie.
When
Fucking
did you
goat.
see him?
Daryl's back.
Goats.
You said when is the scene? He was the tour guide.
Huh.
Remember when he was
didn't-
showing off Asgard?
Jawan noticed it right away.
I didn't.
Right away, and I was like, yes.
I think
always
somebody even
wondered
called
what
him out
happened
by
to
name. So
Yeah, they
tried to
did.
make you
They said
notice.
They
mentioned. They said his name
Yeah.
a lot.
Oh, okay.
I was
That's
just like,
confirmed.
hell yeah, man.
It is him.
I didn't even notice that.
I just loved it because Feige, I think Feige was always saying that that's not canon, that wasn't canon. And I'm like, that fucking sucks. Why? Why can't it be canon?
Because it's
So to
just
see
as
him
silly
in
as
this
this
movie,
movie, basically. Yeah.
That's why you make it canon. It fits, right? Like
It fits this
it
movie.
fits.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So
That's
I'm
what
like,
it does fit
I was
the
happy
movie.
to see him. I was very happy to see him. I'm like, yes, you deserve to be in this. But I'm sorry. Go ahead, Trayvon.
Like, fine. I mean, I keep saying it. You know, it's funny that he became Shazam. That was weird.
It's so funny. I didn't like it in either movies. I didn't
It
like
threw
it
me
there.
off.
I didn't like it here.
least-
like,
At
I
least
just
that
did
happened
not
in
like
the
it.
comics in Shazam. I know that's a new.
Yes, that was the one time. That was like the one out of two times where it was funny.
Goats are funny in every scene.
first
That
time-
was that was the funniest goat scene.
First time you saw
I don't
the
know
goats.
if I'd say it was the funniest scene. That was definitely the funniest goat scene.
Yeah.
100%.
I
Without
wish
a
I could
doubt.
imitate those screams. I would.
That's cool. I just never talked to you.
I get that Jane was dying, right, without the power. Okay, so the power is draining her. I get that, but to me, how it looks to me is once she couldn't access the power of the hammer anymore, that's when she fell ill. I thought it was because the hammer was destroyed. Because when she did it, she smashed it down like it was gone forever.
No, the whole premise, and they changed it from the comics, but the whole premise is Thor was saying the hammer was killing her, right? Instead of it fixing it, it was only progressing it a lot rapidly.
Yeah.
So that's why, because remember, when they landed back on Earth and they fell in the grass and the hammer was away from her, she was immediately gone back to her weakened state. So it's essentially without it, apparently, it's killing her, which is different from the comics.
That was kind of
with it was completely nullifying it, and then when she didn't have it, it brought it right back.
Yeah, it restarted everything. In the comic, it restarted everything. It made all
No,
the
go ahead, Mike. Go ahead, Mike.
I just want to. That's a problem that I kind of had with the movie and how they set that up. So Thor enchants Mjolnir, right? And he says to protect Jane.
Yes.
Right.
If it ends up killing her, then Mjolnir's not following that enchantment, right? So that's kind of a weird way to make that story work, especially since they changed it.
Again, I think narratively they could have explained it better, but I think Mjolnir was under the impression that it was giving her a little bit more time, right? And again, it was what she wanted, right? So if you're Mjolnir, you're just like, well, shit, my whole purpose is to protect her, right? So if she wants this, who am I to take this away from her? I think that is kind of like a.
Why didn't it show up 6 months ago? I'm just saying.
Yeah, because if it's taking out the chemo.
I'm not trying to explain it away. I'm just saying the reason why I think Mjolnir didn't immediately go, no, I can't be with you. Like, I think I'm killing you. I think there was just the bond there. But no, I'm sorry. What were you saying, Mike?
No, I was just gonna say. So wouldn't Jane have been better off though if she could properly go through chemo instead of being Thor for 2 weeks?
But that was in the comic books too. Like she was better off just going through chemo normally.
But she was trying to find a way to fix it, so she went there herself. So
and again, I think she made it clear she knew her time was coming up. She just wanted to maximize what she had left, and if she could be a superhero on the way out, she wanted to be a superhero on the way out.
I guess the difference between the way the movie handled it in the comics is that in the comics she was worthy and she chose to be Thor, whereas here the hammer chose her and inadvertently killed her, which is kind of my problem.
I want to
made it quicker.
Yeah, but it also was confusing because with and without it, she was dying, and it's just like, well, wait, hold on. One of those things.
It's without it. Problem is, like when she was, I don't think she would have died if she kept the hammer. Problem is,
that's what Thor was saying when he went when they were at the bed. He said, if you keep doing this, this is
It's
going
gonna
to kill you.
Yeah.
Right.
Killing her
So he was
human
telling
body.
right, he was telling her with and without it, it's going to kill you. She
It's
was
just- it's
saying
just
it
killing
doesn't
it quicker.
matter. Right. She was saying it doesn't matter. I just want to go out a hero.
All
I
I'm
just I
saying
want to
is,
go out with
I'm
excitement.
not upset that she's dead. That's all I'm saying.
To be fair, you were never that joyous about there being two Thors. So
No.
that's where that bias comes from. But again, like I said, it just never made sense. I'm like, her coming back just for what? Essentially for what? But what else you got, Trayvon?
Let's see what else. Zeus, I hated him. I was so happy when he died.
Did he not turn you on? Was that what the problem?
Absolutely
Well,
not.
that's a thing that I think is embellished a little bit. I don't know if we know he is dead.
We know
Oh,
it. We know it's
okay.
not.
Zeus. I
We
know
know he's
Thor
not.
thinks he's dead.
Yeah, Thor thinks he's dead.
Right. Well, no, Trayvon, you were saying you were glad he died. I was saying.
Yeah, I was saying I was
dead.
excited for that, but then when I saw him, he
Oh,
came
okay.
out. I was like,
Gotcha.
I do like that he's
why
upset.
can't you be dead and Hercules just avenge you? Like you could stay dead. Like you were trash. Like he was an awful
He was a
awful
dick.
person.
He was.
Like I was like, God, this is awful.
So wait, Trayvon, do you think? Let me ask you this, because you are very passionate when it comes to that. Do you view that as a badge of honor when a show or a movie does that for you, or do you get like frustrated when a character is so good at being bad you hate them? Because like for me, I think they're doing a great job. Like for Joel, when he watches Power and he sees that fucking kid Tariq, there's something that just reacts in him when he sees that kid. But that's because they do a great job, right? So how do you view that? Like, does that upset you? Like, how do you view it?
I don't know. Like it depends what I'm watching. I don't know. I hated that character. I was like, I didn't understand why he was there, except for to be sacrificed for Hercules to come and show up in that
He was
beautiful.
there because they
outfit.
went to the main city of the gods, and he's the head
God.
honcho. He's the main
Listen,
guy. Yeah.
Listen, listen.
And
Zeus
I'm
is-
sorry, it kind of would have been really weird if you introduced Hercules and there was just no mention of Zeus at all.
I mean, it killed every other god off screen. Kill Zeus off screen. That's fine.
No, they
And
killed
would it-
no one of the actual worth.
Right. That mattered.
Kill
How are
all
you
of
saying
them.
and? You don't even know what gods he killed off screen. Like-
Yeah, name them.
That's
we
the
don't
problem.
need to care about him. We don't need to care about
No,
him.
that was the problem. But like,
Right.
you can't. You can't. That's the
But we're
thing.
saying you can't tell us that you killed Zeus off screen. That would have been extremely unacceptable.
No. I would have
Extremely
been fine with it if I get to see Hercules in the outfit.
You didn't know what Zeus looked like though.
I don't
Yeah.
care.
You've been upset. Now you
Oh.
want him to be dead.
Nope. I saw Hercules in the outfit. I was very happy.
Lord.
I don't know
so-
if that scene hits the same if there was no Zeus at all.
You need Zeus.
Yeah, sure. Let's see. So,
Great gods, I'm excited.
I don't know. I'm excited to see where they go with that. I definitely want to see how powerful love is. That name is so funny to me. It fit the cheesiness. But I was like, it's a little spot on. Okay, all right.
And I loved it because that was the one really good thing Taika did in all this writing. He never named her. Gore kept referring to her as daughter. Never had a name. Right. My child, daughter. So it's like when Thor was just thinking of like, what should your name be? And they're just Love. They're just like, well, okay. All right. And there is an actual character in Marvel called Love. An actual god.
Yeah.
An actual god called Love.
It's a yeah. Love. I forgot, what was the other one?
It's a lower tier. Love is in the lower tier of gods, but is a god nonetheless.
Yeah, she's under obviously Eternity and
Right.
all that motherfucker, but she's up there.
This is a really dark thought I had, but
Shocking.
since we have X-Men coming in and everybody's talking about Rogue taking powers away from people, it'll be a couple years from now. So let's think of it that way, okay? So Love grows up. She's Eternity. She's all this power. That's who Rogue grabs onto. But anyway, all right. So let's move on.
I'm sorry. Are you putting a child in harm's way
I
to protect Captain
said-
Marvel?
I said.
Is that what we're doing? You want a
couple
sacrificial
years from
lamb?
now, she'll
What did
be
you say?
older.
He wants a sacrificial lamb so that Captain Marvel doesn't get attacked by Rogue. So he wants to use the child as a human shield.
She
so
has
that Danvers
more
isn't he was saying love.
Eternity.
He was saying if Rogue
it's eternity.
Yeah.
She has power. That's
Gotcha.
greater.
Coming for Carol, bro.
I mean,
Carol,
again, I would like to remind you, Trayvon, I would like to remind you on how vastly large the MCU is. You don't have to.
I almost don't even want Rogue because I know
she doesn't kill her. You know, she just she holds on too long.
I mean, again, I don't think you have to worry about that, Trayvon, because I think a lot of us believe we'll get Kitty Pryde, and I don't think any of us believe Kitty Pryde will have a relationship with Star-Lord. So I'm like, it doesn't always mean one thing always means the other.
That's true.
We could have Rogue, and that never happens.
That's the only. Okay. Why I say that is the only Rogue I like is the one that has powers. The one that flies
no.
Straight.
I agree.
I
think there's other ways for her to get it.
There is.
I think there's other ways for her to get it.
There's other characters she could probably steal that from.
Yes,
right. She doesn't have to do it from Danvers. No, it doesn't have to be the one that's a child right now, Trayvon.
Yeah, it said a couple years. Now stop doing that. I said a couple years from now. Okay.
Well, she's a child now. That's all.
And the problem is everybody. And last thing I want to say, last problem I had, everybody can use Stormbreaker. That was annoying to me. I was like, damn. So Gore took it. He threw it to Astrid.
Well, wait, hold on. No. There's a difference. There's no enchantment on Stormbreaker.
But
there's no enchantment on it. Now, should it be too heavy for other beings to lift as easily as they do?
Yes.
Sure. But essentially, you got to remember, all Stormbreaker is the hilt of Mjolnir, right? Essentially, like made out of the same Uru metal as Mjolnir. But it's just Groot. It's just a tree. Like you just gotta be strong enough to lift the tree.
Guardian though is using the Bifrost and everything.
But it's not enchanted. That's all I'm saying.
In Infinity War, when they first make Stormbreaker, they straight up and say you have to be a god to use the weapon. Only gods can lift this weapon. So the fact that anybody can use it now is kind of weird. I guess your only excuse is these Asgardians technically count as gods.
There's no technically about it. They are gods.
I mean,
so that means Gore should have killed all those kids, though. That's the problem. It's like,
okay, no, time out. Now, Mike, I will never argue with you the endless issues that come up in this movie, but those Asgardians are gods, 100% through and through. They're all gods. So anyone who was able to lift it, that was Asgardian, is a god. That's all you just have to chalk that up to. If they were able to lift it. Now, if you told me fucking Sam Wilson walked in and picked that shit up, then I'm like, well, yeah, now that's like, what the fuck are we doing here? But if it was an Asgardian that lifted it, they're a god. And we know Love, of course, is a god now. And Gore the God Butcher, you can make an argument that Sword made him a god tier.
God tier, yeah.
For him to be able to lift
kill gods and shit.
Yeah, so again, these are the problems you have when you break Mjolnir.
Universally used weapon. I was like, damn, everybody.
Well, if I see a human use it, then I agree with you. But until then, I've only seen gods lift.
Steve used it. Just saying.
Oh, at that point, he had become so worthy. I guess
you just said it's not enchanted. So how does worthy matter? Right?
Wait, you're saying he lifted Mjolnir?
Mjolnir.
He
used Stormbreaker too in Endgame.
Oh.
And then Thor said, "Wait, let's switch.
Give it back." He said, "Give it back. You take the little one."
He did. Look, these movies are not without flaw.
You gotta stop thinking so much.
Without flaw. They're not without flaw. You're not wrong. But the people in this movie were gods. So in this movie, it worked. But I cannot make excuses for Endgame. A lot of Endgame was just like, it's very confusing. You guys ever hear the writers talk about Endgame and then hear the Russos talk about Endgame? It's not consistent at all.
No,
not at all. Because the writers have two different reasonings on how Cap was able to come back. The Russos said he's always been there, right? And then the fucking writers are like, no, he just came back to that exact point in time. And we're just like, well, hold on. What? Like, huh? So yeah, inconsistency runs through the veins of that movie. But go ahead, Trayvon.
The last thing that I felt like was the most important piece of this movie.
Shut up. Shut up.
What?
It's just beginning. Relax.
What?
Nothing
Sports.
happened yet. Don't
Sports.
jinx it. I swear to God.
Is it sports?
Yes, it's sports.
Oh, okay.
Is this Donovan Mitchell?
Nothing. It's nothing yet.
Oh, sports.
Ah!
Don't jinx it.
Oh boy.
Ah! Go ahead. I'm sorry, Trayvon. Go ahead.
Fine.
Go ahead.
He's gonna jinx it.
It's gonna fall through now because of that
Just
reaction.
because he can't keep himself together. Just get excited when there's actually something to be excited about.
Go ahead, Trayvon. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I was letting you get it out. I was like, okay. Act like me if Powers were announced.
Nothing's even happening. Look at that.
So,
Oh man.
the scene I thought was so okay. It's not really the most important, but it was funny to me when they were talking about when he flicked him and he was all naked, and they were like, Thor was like, you're not having a problem with being like that. And he was like, what'd you think? What's wrong? What do you think, Core? I liked it. I said, oh, okay. That's okay. All right. I see what y'all doing here. Got it. Love it.
Well,
Yeah.
I think what I love most about that scene, and it's the small detail of it, because you know how like everyone paid attention to all the women that passed out when he got flicked too hard. Look at those two male guards. They were like, okay, shit,
Impressive.
all right. Like, damn, like they kind of. It was one of those reactions. You ever have a reaction that just jumps out and then you go, I did not mean that. Like, I did not mean for you to hear that. They looked at Thor like, God damn. Oh, I mean, put clothes on, Thor. Like, they definitely had that reaction.
When he got stripped, we all were like, oh, well. Someone fainted and someone like, I'm jealous. Just completely honestly.
I love the tattoo in the back. Too.
I player hated.
I was like,
First thing I said is that's not even a real body. Fuck it. You know, the first thing I did was player.
I'm like, life isn't fair. You're like, watching like,
your kids are in the movies with you. Your wife was in the movie with you. Your wife is beautiful. You're beautiful. Something needs to be wrong here, right? Like something has to be wrong here. Like he's wearing a wig. He's truly bald. I need something like that to be true about Chris.
Something has to be wrong.
Like, something there.
If it makes you feel better, the script wasn't that great.
That's not enough. Because Chris Hemsworth didn't write it. That's not enough. I need something Chris Hemsworth. Oh,
it's the Tom Brady effect. You just need something that. Okay,
yes.
I got it.
Yes.
You know what else bothered me about this movie, and it's the littlest, stupidest thing.
What?
His eyes matched.
Oh.
Well, that's been an inconsistency for a while now.
It
bothers
the shit out of me. I'm like, it was not supposed to match because if you. But obviously, you can explain it away off screen, but they never even mention it. So I was like, oh, whatever.
You want to know something that's very insignificant that bothered me? The Guardians didn't bring up their quest for Gamora not once. So you're telling me from the time of the end of Endgame to now, they've just been doing adventures with Thor. So what causes them at some point to go search for Gamora? I thought that would be answered here.
James Gunn came running in like, "Don't you talk about it."
And apparently, that's exactly what happened.
Movie at all.
He's like,
get him out as soon as possible.
We have two things. We still have the holiday special, and then we have the movie. So they're not going to talk about it in this, I guess.
I thought this would. You know what it was, Joel? It's the same way I thought they would talk about mutants in Eternals. I thought they would talk about Gamora in this, and when they didn't, I was just like, "But that was your chance."
I thought like when it's supposed to be flipped anyway, it was supposed to be Guardians first, and then this, and then
yes.
So
But that's what happens when you fire a guy and then he finds work elsewhere. Like,
I think
or you fire a guy. I'm still don't think they really fired him.
Right.
Yeah,
that's definitely fired with pay.
I think an easy excuse though is that in Endgame where Star-Lord and Thor are fighting over the coordinates and where to go, you can just say they gave in because Thor clearly thought he was the leader at this point. They gave in to Thor, and now they're going to search for Gamora since they finally dumped Thor off.
True, and I would accept that if the end of Endgame didn't make it seem like their sole goal, or Quill's sole goal was to go find Gamora. I would feel as though he would want Thor to help him go find Gamora, right? Like, yeah, we can do whatever you want, Thor, but on the way, I got to find my woman, right?
See, that's my whole problem with that, too. Like, where did she go?
Well, we're going to have to wait and see.
I don't know.
And what ship did she get on to go? Like,
that
where
is
did you
the bigger
go?
question. That's the bigger question.
Like,
that is the bigger question. What the fuck did she use to leave? Like, is she on Earth? Like, where the fuck
It'd
did
be
she go?
hilarious if she's still on Earth.
Yeah, right.
If she's
Living
in
that life
Vegas
as a
somewhere.
what?
If she's in Vegas somewhere, and
And also,
Phil's
she don't like you. That's another thing.
That's
This one
that's
don't like
the problem.
you.
You're looking for someone
out.
that doesn't.
It's
Here's-
creepy.
Here's why
She
it's not a
don't
problem.
like you.
Here's why it's not a problem, right? Narratively, she didn't fucking like him the first time she met him. So it's like he
You
did
think
one
you
of those.
rekindle it again.
He did one of those narrative wear downs where she was just like, I guess.
I do like that they added Kraglin to the team.
Oh, that is
Yeah,
cool. That is cool. That is cool. And I do love that he marries every woman he meets.
He gets married everywhere they go.
I
Was
do
he
love
in
that. I
Endgame?
do love that.
He
No.
was an Endgame. He was just very small scene, just like Howard
Portal
the Duck.
scene, right?
Yeah, portal scene, just like Howard the Duck.
Oh,
Yeah.
You see
I
him in
don't
the
remember him
background.
at all. I don't
Okay,
remember
how
him
about
at
say
He
when
was
they
right
pick
next
him
to
But
up?
on one of the
Okay.
bikes or whatever.
Yeah, no, I don't remember that at all.
Because it's very small cameo. He's not
Hmm.
actually. There's no speaking role. He's in the background.
Okay.
Wow. I don't know what was happening on the screen that I didn't even catch. I've watched Endgame a lot. I didn't even catch that
They
at all.
pointed it out. The Howard the Duck. You remember seeing Howard the Duck?
No,
Exactly. It's the same thing. He's in it too.
I guess. I mean, because
Wow.
look, I just told you I rewatched Far From Home the other day, and something I never noticed watching this movie all the times that I did. If you guys remember the scene where they first get to Italy, was it in Italy?
It might
Or
be.
wherever they went on their trip. Remember when Peter was looking over at MJ with that other kid by the water, and they were kind of sharing a
Mhm.
moment, and
Yeah.
then Peter went to go buy the necklace.
Yeah.
As Peter turned around to go buy the necklace, Mysterio was right there behind him.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that.
Yeah, when you freeze frame it, he's right there behind him, and I'm like, I never fucking caught that.
You
Ever
see,
caught that.
you see, he's not the only one, right? There's other ones.
Oh wait, of him
Scenes.
popping up.
Yeah.
Yeah. When they come back home, he pops up at the airport when he's supposed to be dead. That's why everyone always assumed he's still alive, right? Like the man is the ultimate illusionist.
Yeah.
There's no way he would.
I don't believe he's dead.
I mean, to me, I'm fine as long as it plays out in the Sinister Six. You know what I'm saying? As long as it plays out in that.
And the MCU Sinister Six.
Yes, not Sony's fucking Sinister Six. No, they don't deserve greatness. But all right, so I think overall we all have the same issues. It just seemed as though it bothers some of us a lot more than it did others. But it is very consistent that this is a flawed. I won't say very, but this is a flawed movie. As flawed as they come.
Very controversial. Yeah.
Controversial?
Yeah. It's splitting us up. It's splitting everybody up. Everybody. Some people hate it. Some people like it. Some people like never get it direct again. It's very. You know.
It's like a DC movie.
Okay. That's not. Okay. All right.
Not recent ones.
Gotta go.
Yeah, not recent ones. Not recent
Oh no.
it's like somebody else's regime. I won't say a name. It's like that other guy's regime. Those are very mixed. Very people pick and choose what they like about those.
Or it's like the Star Wars movies. Let's go there. How about that? Let's go to those.
That's fair.
I wouldn't even say that. I can't tell you how many people I personally know that loved those movies. I have people that didn't hate them as much as I did, but I do not know anyone that loved those movies. None of them. Any of them.
Which ones are you talking about?
The trilogy. I don't mean the movies outside the trilogy, just the trilogy itself.
They're all trilogy.
Yeah,
The new
people-
trilogy.
No. There were other Star Wars movies that came out around the time that Force Awakens and shit came out, like Solo.
You mean like the Star Wars stories?
Yeah. I'm saying what I hated was the Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and Rise of
The
Skywalker.
new trilogy. You hated
And
them?
I loved it.
No. I hated 2 out of the 3 of those movies very passionately. That first
Last
one
Jedi
to
is
me
a
is
top
still
3
a
Star
classic.
Wars movie. Just saying.
What is the top 3 Star Wars movie?
Last
That's
Jedi.
Oh, was good.
You were saying you're a
I
DC
enjoyed it.
fan, Mike. Is that?
I mean, that's not what I was saying, but that's a fact. It's literally right here on the neck. So
I just took that as you're not a big Star Wars fan. That's okay. I can accept that. No, but all jokes aside, I love being able to break this down with Jayla, Tristan, Joel, Mike, Trayvon, Joe in the comments. Really enjoy breaking this down with you guys. Like I said, this movie will be something that I am very curious that 10 years from now, when we look back, do people feel just as strongly about whether it's liking or disliking? Do they feel the same, right? Whether it's just seeing how Taika rebounds or seeing what else they do with Thor, do we just look back at this movie any differently? And if you ask the internet, they are already telling you, no, fuck no.
Oh,
And like
absolutely,
now,
bees.
like then.
Oh,
Like-
I forgot to bring it up.
Go ahead.
I am one of those people that I'm fine if they don't bring back Taika for the next movie. They don't. They do. I'm not gonna be upset either. I mean, either way,
I just don't want.
I won't be upset, but it will bother me.
it won't bother me because
It'll bother me the same way it did when I'm like, I'm sorry. Why is Shane Black directing an Iron Man movie? Did Favreau get sick? Did he retire? Like it was, because I think that movie was drastically bad compared to the other two that John did.
You
So
watch
I'm like,
Chef,
you're gonna
that
pass
tells
it
you all
off.
you need to know.
If you're gonna pass it off, don't pass it off and let it be the worst of the three.
Chef is.
So that was my issue. So I'm like, okay, I've already seen two other directors direct Thor, and I did not like it. So I'm like, the only time I've liked Thor is with Taika. So if you're gonna pass it
there's
off,
a lot of other directors. I wouldn't be upset if someone that gives us more of both, like a little bit of both. You don't have to be exactly like one or the other. Just I wouldn't mind seeing something new. That's all I'm saying.
all right. Like I said, I'm fine with a new director if you're telling me at that point it's a new direction completely. Like it's not focused on Thor. Then I'm fine. Fine with that. But if it's focused on Thor, I would like to see the man finish the job. I think that should be done more. So where if you introduce a character with a director, just let him see out the whole vision. I think when you bring in other people is where it's just like, well, now it feels drastically different than what he
one
did.
trilogy. Would you want him to finish this next trilogy? Is that what you're saying?
How did he finish one trilogy? Oh, because he was the bookmark of, okay.
Right.
I want him to have his own trilogy is essentially.
So you want 4 movies out of it? I don't know.
Out of Taika? Sure.
Yeah. That's. I wouldn't mind the change. Is all I'm saying.
4.
I'm saying if you're going to, yeah, because he did Ragnarok, he did this. So to complete a trilogy, he'd have to do his own trilogy. He had to do 2 more. I don't need that many Thor movies, but if they make that many Thor movies, it should be Taika.
I know.
Look, I didn't need this Thor movie, so it's like I'm already like there's Thor. There's one too many.
I
Thor
do
movies.
think he'll end up doing another trilogy. I don't know. I have a feeling.
I don't see how you tell you again. This is making a buku amount of money, and people can't just go, well, all the Marvel movies do. No, there are some Marvel movies that make a lot of more money than other Marvel movies.
The normal movies.
Right. So it's not like every movie makes the same $2 billion. No, that's not true. Right. Some movies make a shit ton more than others. And it looks like this is on the pace to make a shit ton more than a lot of these other ones that came out recently.
Word.
Obviously outside of Spider-Man. But all right, guys. The next time you will see us, we will be breaking down Stranger Things tomorrow on the Last Scare podcast. Jayla will be leading the way for that. I cannot wait to hear everybody's thoughts on that season. Because talk about a comma. You could have wrapped shit up a lot better than you did here. Now you've kind of just raised the stakes. And then listening to the Duffer Brothers talk. Is like every time they talk, you're just like, well, if you didn't want to do that, why the fuck did you do any of that? Like, why? Why are we here?
Steve is alive. That's all I care about.
Hey, look, at the end of the day, God is good, ain't he? Right? We got Mike, what do we say heading into this? If Steve lives, that's all we care about.
Yeah.
You can take everybody. Steve got to stay. Right?
In the words of Michael Jordan, fuck them kids.
Amen to that. Amen to that. That should be the bumper sticker on every car in the new season. Fuck them kids. It's all about Steve. But you know what? I don't even need Steve to be happy. I'm happy that he's alive to not be happy. I'll take that. I'll take it. Yeah, I'm okay if you're miserable but alive. I'll take that any day of the week. Any day. You just deserve to live. You are the heartbeat of Stranger Things, Steve. And we love you. All right. So make sure you guys tune in tomorrow to see us break down Stranger Things part 2 or second half or All the Kids Survive, whatever you want to call it. That's what we're going to be breaking down. Yeah, whatever you want to call it. But please stay tuned for that. And again, I want to remind you guys, we will be going live next weekend to not only break down Hall H for Marvel, even if it's just me and Joel, we will be doing Shazam and Black Adam's panel also. 100%. 100%. Okay, perfect. So Trayvon will be there, and I will be forcing Joel to break down with me if they do give us a Godzilla vs. King Kong Part 2.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're gonna call it that, but yeah, I wouldn't be upset by that.
As long as Kong,
And Friday is
Kong
the
gets
animated
revenge.
stuff for Friday, so
So we'll definitely have to do that. We might lead that into whatever day we do the DC and Marvel. Like we start off with breaking down everything animation that happened. Because Fridays be too busy for all of us. But all right, so make sure you guys stay tuned for that. Can't wait to break that down with you guys live. If you guys joined us the last time we did San Diego Comic-Con, you know that it is not something you want to miss. It is not something you want to miss. You want to be there. I mean, hell, Fandom was crazy when we did it. I didn't speak for the whole last 20 minutes of that shit after watching the Batman trailer. That shit had me in awe. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Until next